It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime. Showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime. We coming hard, we coming fast. Get out the way or get caught up in the blast. We coming hard, we coming fast. Get out the way or get caught up in the blast. We coming hard into battle, thought they were strong, but they rattled like an avalanche. We advance, lights go out like a shadow. Soon as it starts, then it's over. Round of applause for the close of the opposers know exactly who we are. We coming hard. Strong, but they rattled like an avalanche. We advance, lights go out like a shadow. Soon as it starts, then it's over. Round of applause for the close of the opposers know exactly who we are. We coming hard. We coming hard. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. Yo, it's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime. Showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime.
Your order is here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime. showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime, it's your time. It's game time, it's go time. You got one shot at a gold mine. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Day 2, Stage 2 PMPL EU. Yesterday was an interesting one to say the least. It was absolutely incredible, some of these finishes that we've seen. But today, we got some more action coming your way. I'm Ginny, your host, joined on the desk by Kalaris. Kalaris, how are we feeling after yesterday?
Excellent, considering, as you say, that yesterday was, I think, much closer than we kind of expected coming into Phase 2. And also, the top dogs didn't quite kind of push ahead, or even some of them didn't even get that good results at all. So there's a lot of opportunity in Phase 2 for it to continue to be even, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's a really exciting path that we're currently on. But if you want to make sure that you're following every single step of the way, make sure to head over to our socials and drop a follow. We got all the socials available. As we said, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I know you guys are on those. So also, if you follow the socials, there is a little giveaway that we are running as well. This is thanks to Max. So make sure that your DMs stay open because we're giving away skins. Right? Yes.
Yes, we are. And in fact, I think Max is also giving away a lot more than that if you DM him. Make sure to send him many, many DMs today.
Yeah.
Very important day for Max.
Yeah, very, very important day. A very important day as well to hear your feedback in terms of what you appreciate about PMPL EU and any ideas you have going forward. So make sure that you fill out the survey. If you never want to see Max again, we got you.
Wait, I'm getting word that we're getting a lot of results on that question that you've just asked. That's a lot.
Yeah. Ooh,
You keep saying no more Max. That's weird. Oh.
Yeah, we got you guys. Don't worry about it. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Let's have a look at the participating teams as well because right now... the genie chair. I forgot. Yeah, so I got dethroned. I'm now like not even sitting on a chair, guys. I am just like hovering. It's like a workout.
I think, quite honestly, your original chair looks more photoshopped than you not having. I don't understand what's going on.
Listen, it's not because I'm like small. It's actually like that chair. When they built it for someone who was like 7 foot. So when I got it, I'm 6 foot, by the way, and it was just like, oh yeah. It's not me, it's a chair.
Janera, you don't have to pretend that we're not short. Like, I have to stand on boxes when it comes to all the tall people in StarCraft and all this other stuff, you know. It's a rough life. I understand.
I'm just laughing my pain away. Let's have a look at the teams as well that are participating here at PMPL EU. I'm sure you guys are already familiar with them, but just another time to have a look at them and showcase in which groups they are going to be participating. Group A with 3 rather than 4, but as we addressed yesterday, Go Team is no longer with us here due to unfair advantages that have been secured. So don't take unfair advantages and you will still be in the competition. Now, one of the teams that we really praised yesterday was one of Max's favorite teams, actually, Colares, because obviously they're French, and he's French, and no bias at all whatsoever when it comes to Max. But Game Lord, when we look at them last season, they had a little bit of a strong start, and then they kind of like, pew. But this time around, it's like a consistent, steady line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you compare Game Lord from previous season to this season, I think that there is 1 or 2 senses that have been heightened coming into this. I think they're looking more confident about their approach to the game. I think they're looking more confident in the later stages of the game, because we had a lull in the previous season where the season before that one, Game Lord looked great. They looked confident, and it was like last season they lost their mojo. Like they really didn't have much going on in terms of team fight ability, holding down locations, or even, I would go as far as to say, even like confidence in their individual ability last season. It just felt like something was off. However, coming into this season, the start of phase 1 was pretty decent. They finished kind of that middle of the pack place, and then coming into phase 2 as well, it's a brilliant day number 1 from them, rounding out a game on Erangel, as you just saw briefly, against the likes of Gladiators, when they were moving through fields during that whole time and working with no cover there, Gennaro. So I'm excited to see if Game Lord can continue on that trend. What do you think?
I bet the looks of what we've seen yesterday, not just actually from Game Lords, but from all the teams in general, it feels like a lot of lessons have been learned from that stage.
I agree.
And they're all being moved into stage 2. And that's kind of something that we were a little bit on and off about. We're not too sure whether or not that's going to be the case. But seeing that that's the case, we are absolutely incredibly happy with that. Looking forward to see what the teams are going to bring forward. But let's have a look at the team intro for Game Lord, because who are they?
This is incredible work from Game Lord.
They get better and better every single time.
This is the best team in the PMPL right now.
Narvalo is a beast.
Damage sent in. He knows exactly what the range is. Sends out wide and doesn't take a lick in response. This could be good. This could be it. And somehow, some way, Narvalo works the miracle.
Oh my god. EMG3 from Victor.
This is incredible work from Game Lord. They are really tearing these two teams.
Just doesn't stop spraying through, and Akashi on the other side. That's 2 players knocked down for the 100.
I don't know what exactly happened.
Allez, il en reste qu'un, il en reste qu'un, il en reste qu'un, et c'est le back-to-back, les amis. Le back-to-back de la part
Well, there you go. If you needed a little bit of a background story on Game Lord and who's participating in that roster and where they're from, which is why Max likes them so much, now you have the answer to that question, and now we know a little more. But another team really that we kind of saw climb up their ranks a little yesterday and even get a chicken dinner was ARR, and they've just been literally flying under the radar for the entirety of phase 1.
Yeah, I think for phase 1, I think we saw quite a bit from Tapok and a bit from Lamentrix as well. For Aces and Becca, not as much overall, but I think that we've still seen that kind of consistency come through for especially Lamentrix yesterday, who was able to kind of finish second, I believe it was, on the MVP rankings for the day. So definitely this team, they've been in situations before where they've almost been able to eke out a victory and then kind of be pipped at the post, fall at that last hurdle, as it were. However, yesterday, in a game where I wasn't really expecting them to actually make the win happen, they did via some great sends. I mean, they'd watched as a few other teams had already made that same send, and maybe you can kind of assimilate some of that information and work with that and see exactly the right angle of approach to make. But it worked out brilliantly yesterday as they were playing on the edge, and I think if they can continue with that kind of play, not this one where they're fighting against Gladiators, because Gladiators won this one out, but they almost defeated Gladiators there. It was really close, Gennaro.
Yeah, it was a really close. And that's, again, the storyline kind of that we're seeing throughout the entirety of the Phase 2 so far. I'm saying the entirety of Phase 2. It's been like a day at a first pre-show. What am I even talking about? But all in all, it feels like even the last couple of days, last stage, that consistency is coming out from a lot of individual players. And again, these individual players are having such a big impact on the standings and the points that some of these teams are able to secure. So it's good to see some of them stepping up to the plate. And again, yesterday, EXO and Meku were one of those players.
Yeah, EXO seized the MVP spot yesterday, and usually when that happens, we're like, all right, cool, good for you. Yeah, golf clap, well done, well done. However, EXO comes in as a sub for NEXUS here over Octavian. And this is the first day he has played here in PMPL Europe for 23. So the fact that he was able to come out, get MVP on his first day on the field, and we're comparing him against someone that you're very familiar with, like Meku, for example, and the numbers he was able to pump out yesterday. Well, Gladiators didn't have a bad day, Janiro. So
absolutely not.
I'm hoping to see EXO again today. I really want to see him on the field here to bump up that NEXUS consistency even further.
Yeah, what a way as well to start off. You know, you're starting off with a bang. And today's going to be another banger as well, because we have 5 maps coming your way. But the greatest thing about today here, Kalaris, is we're starting with Sanhok. And we don't have it once, we got it twice.
You know, Sanhok's not bad when the healing strat's not there. I'm happy with that. I'm not too bothered by it in the slightest. I just hope that some people control their ridge lines a little bit better and don't drive around in circles for about 20 hours during it. Because that hurt my predictions quite significantly.
Yeah, do it for the Kalaris prediction, guys. Come on. Oh, I mean, we got beat by blank by 1 point, so you guys
First time for everything, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, first time as well when, starting with Sanhok, no, not really, but the first time in terms of yesterday where we saw a lot of damage coming through from Team Cave on Sanhok. I think we were all like, whoa, that's not the numbers that we are expecting to see on Sanhok. But coming on to today, considering that's going to be the first map as well, is that maybe something we're expecting? Because the teams are seeming to really get used to this map and the drops and just making sure that they stay out of each other's way, but also get elims.
There's 2 ways you can look at it. Either Cave is very good at identifying where they need to be in some of these Sanhok circles, because we've seen them, well, I mean, their first Sanhok win was off the back of getting a victory off of a shack play that was technically a priority location at the time, but for the most part during that game, not really. And then the second part is that they are very good at making decent transitions, I would say, on Sanhok. Not a lot of teams would make a transition all the way across Quarry that we saw yesterday, because usually you're just going to get gunned down and not exactly have the best of times. But they were very close to winning that game out versus Sly. It was down to the wire. Yeah,
it's the classic, like we said it yesterday, when you try your best, but you don't succeed. Unfortunate condition to be in, but overall rankings have been impacted as well because of yesterday. As we said, every team started off with a total of 0 points. Game Lords came out on top with a total of 40, thanks to their elims, their placement points, as well as that chicken dinner on the table. Major Pride, Sly, and ARR, the other teams to get that chicken dinner, as well as KASIK team. And it just feels like a complete different story. Like the table has just been turned, like the middle of the table from last week has been put on the top, and the top has been put on the middle. And I love it.
Yep. Yeah, and as well, like if you really compare day 1 in phase 2 to day 1 in phase 1, when we were looking at that, it was very clearly your MADBULLS, your NEXUS, SHOCKWAVE to a degree, and MUERTE really running away with it in day number 1. So there was a bit of a divide after day 1. However, this time around, not the case. Everyone is very close in terms of points, and even looking through the 9th to 16th here, Janiro, there's still a wealth of opportunity, even with 1 chicken dinner alone, to jump right up into that top 3. So it's very close to start things off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so great to see how close these rankings are, because as you said, it leaves a lot of unpredictability and a lot of expectations open in terms of who is going to be finishing stage 2 on top. I mean, even who's going to be finishing this weekend on that first place. And that's what we like, that you're keeping us on our toes. We don't really like it when it goes to the predictions, but that's okay. Blank seems to be enjoying it, so that's all that matters. But coming into today, you already mentioned that you would like to see more from certain players. Are there any teams, however, that you feel like yesterday was a little lackluster for them?
I feel like Dark Project is probably one of the teams that I would like to see do a little bit more. I think that they do have the chops to do it, but they keep getting caught off in some weird scenarios. Also, I think of all teams, I think Unicorns of Love, I would still like to see more from them. They have been kind of, the players on that roster have been some of the darlings of PMPL West Europe, now coming into Europe, and I'd like to, just for even personal sake, like to see those boys do well. It'd be nice.
Yeah, I think Unicorns of Love as well, a roster that Max touched upon last week as well, in terms of we're expecting a couple of things coming out from them, but yet it doesn't really feel like they have everything under lock and key. But again, it feels like time at this point, Kalaris has really been the best friends of a lot of these rosters coming into stage 2 for PMPL.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about the phase system. The fact that from phase to phase, these teams can step away and say, okay, we've had a good amount of games against this same lobby. Yes, it's a little bit rotating based on the group system, but you can basically judge on what you would consider the top 16. From there, you can walk away, you can say, okay, what rotations didn't work right? Which teams are we running into constantly on those rotations? How can we slightly change those rotations to, say, go around a particular compound and miss them on this move as we're making it through? Because transitioning to these circles is very important, especially in the early game.
Yeah, and I think those adaptations, the fact that they're being made as well, is a really important thing to see. A lot of the times, I mean, sometimes teams are aware of some of the mistakes they're making, but it's the struggle of bringing that awareness into practice and having that translation, see how they're performing on the maps. But so far, it feels like every single roster has really been quite well and performing quite good at making those translations and actually getting those changes down on their lock and key. So that's a really interesting thing as well. When it comes down to individuals, do you have any 2-3 players on different rosters that you think today is the day that they're going to be getting onto that MVP podium?
Quite honestly, I'm super excited to see if EXO can re-show what he showed yesterday for Nexus. There is a moment, of course, where you look back at Nexus's play yesterday and you think to yourself, okay, well, they did have that basic, almost unplayable location on Miramar where nobody could get to them. They were firing at everything, and that was probably able to inflate those numbers a little bit. But still, Nexus is a team that can do very well on Miramar without those kinds of advantages that they were able to find themselves yesterday. We've seen them hold down compounds very strongly, like south of La Bendita, Crater, etc., and things like that. We've seen that in the past through multiple tournaments. So I think my eyes are still kind of on Nexus. Also Major Pride here, Janiro.
Yeah.
I think that looking at them, we kind of alluded to how well they were going to perform at the start of the day yesterday. And I do like the ability to try and enable effect and see how he's going to perform too.
Yeah, a lot of players to look forward to, a lot of rosters to look forward to, but also a lot of games to look forward to. So thank you to Monster for sponsoring this and giving us the energy to keep going, because a total of 5 maps, and I can tell, you know, sometimes towards the end, maybe a little bit of fatigue creeping in. We're seeing a bit more mistakes, but that's fine because we're gonna keep going. We got this. Just a reminder as well, I'm Jeannie. This is Kalaris. I don't know why I said that. I saw those thingies pop up and I was like, yeah, you know what? This is a good time to remind everyone. Kalaris is no longer going to be verified on Twitter, so how does it feel?
It's fine. Don't care. Whatever.
I'm
not paying for it.
Yeah, no. I completely understand that. Maybe John and Blank can chip in on their 2 cents today on April Fools and the fact that you're not going to be verified. So guys, take it away.
In order to have verification removed, you have to be verified in the first place here, Blank. So I feel like, you know what, I'm not really losing much.
No, I mean, I could have been verified, but, you know, as Kale says, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for that, man. I'm just there to do my silly tweets and my silly things. But right now, here I am to do not silly things, which is commentate over a good old game of Sanhok here with PMPL EU, which I'm really excited for. Obviously, we do have 4 teams not playing this time around, so you know it's a little bit different from usual, but it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. We're back to normal. 15 teams. Normal, I say, in quotation marks here. But heading over to Sanhok, start things off nice and hectic. We had a Sanhok yesterday which was all over the place. As the guys on the desk were saying, you know, Kale wished that Dagestan didn't move all round, circling backwards and forwards in the vehicles, but it did not happen. But one thing I will say, John, is I think a lot of these teams are getting a little bit too much focused on the western side of the map. We saw that massive traffic jam happen purely because everyone was moving from that western side.
Yeah, it was very, very tricky to navigate on that quarry, and in general, that's what we have seen and it can come back to bite you. I mean, Blank, it was impossible to predict that one. I think it's safe to say it was just completely, you know, nobody could have done it. Nobody could have done it. Anyway, moving on. Looking at this game, on the northwest side down to docks. Again, very, very kind on these plane paths here on Sanhok. Really not too much to worry about, no matter where these plane paths go. I think the most dramatic we've seen has just been like, you have to spend 20 seconds getting to a vehicle and going to the place you want to go.
Absolutely. Honestly, what I was saying earlier, though, you know, Camp Bravo, Lakawi, Kampong, Docks, all these locations, even Cow, I've seen a lot of good teams actually take Cow, make this rotation down towards Paradise Resort, play from this particular area, which is like a rocky outcrop. You can get good sight lines down towards this position. So perhaps we can even see Nexus here take up that kind of spot. Game Lord already losing a player right off the back with them fighting out versus Excuse Me. It goes both ways, though, but luckily for Excuse Me, their player has not been flushed out as of yet. Now, we praised Game Lord at the start of the day, which is good news. I think they have been playing a lot better. Sanhok, though, is a map that they typically struggle on. I think that they find getting out of this area quite difficult. A lot of times this rotation will hamper them. They've not had many occasions to actually make this rotation, though, so I'm hoping that this might give them a chance going forward. But 3 players, the game is going to be a lot more difficult now, John.
Yeah, it's not going to be too simple, but a hard north circle. Yeah, it's uneasy here. VIRTUS.PRO not in the mix. On that south side, not really too much to go off, but Team Doom and ARR, Phantom and Elementrix close to one another. Elementrix doesn't really have as much backup close by as Phantom does here for Team Doom. Definitely knows that he's on the corner now. Elementrix has the DBS. And has to get away from the team shots coming through. Okay, a bit overzealous there from Phantom. Goes down and gets knocked. Goldie, maybe for the next of the 1v1s, potentially, if Team Doom want to take care of business here against Elementrix. Wants to move on forwards. Actually, Team Doom taking on Avalanche as well. Not really waiting around here to see what's going on. There's a third party coming over the hill as well. Blank, I said there wasn't much going on here, but it looks like I'm going to have to eat my words as Unicorns love roll up into this fight. It's a 3-way engagement here with Avalanche on the sidelines as well. Goodness me. It's all popping off. 2 players down already on Team Doom. Yeah, Unicorns Love broke free of Paradise Resort almost immediately after they heard this fighting. They're pretty looted as well. You can see Beast here. Got the QBZ. He's looking fairly nice in terms of ammo, in terms of the equipment he's working with. So Team Doom just stayed here a little bit too long, unfortunately. Unicorns Love now set up in a nice spot here. Elementrix playing as the insurgent within these compounds, the secret agent. See what he can get done with that DBS, though he is being converged upon right now, and it will have to be one hell of a play. Zero goes down first, and Beck is there for the side swipe onto Elementrix, holding off those angles. Mihi's there, DBS not quite going to have the range. Elementrix only has 1 player close to deal with right now, and Unicorn's yet to have crossed. Always the wild card of Team Doom in the corner. You have to remember, in these engagements, it is very, very dicey, so you don't want to be caught out. And Becca's doing work for ARR. 2 knocks already found on the 4th position, and in goes Elementrix, getting across and towards the Unicorns of Love, and Mihi goes low to a nade. A non-existent HP bar there. Zero gets flushed. Beast probably up next. Swave has to heal, and in comes the rest of ARR as Tapok joins into the fray. Becca and Elementrix playing off of one another. A little bit low on the HP, and not really too many meds to be worried about here as Tapok wades in, but gets knocked on the side. Yeah, Tapok down here. Pretty bad news considering this guy is the key player from ARR. Mihi, though, low. Swave still alive. He's got nothing left on him. Oh, no. Are you joking me? Oh, Lord. That nade. I mean, that's a gobstopper and a half, right? He's playing soccer when it's trying to play PUBG Mobile. Oh my goodness me. I've got American. It took me by surprise that much. I said soccer. What am I doing? Football, obviously. But, I mean... Yeah, let's get a replay on that. That is so unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, that's a gobstopper of a grenade, though. Stuck in his mouth. Nothing he can do about it. Stays inside. Team Doom, though, gets back in on the action. Lino's been here for a long time. He's been just waiting, and I said, you know, these engagements can get dicey. Nexus from the north.
Yeah, Nexus also getting involved, and realistically, I don't mind this at all. They still have Exo Machina up towards Hatin in the water, making sure that he maintains presence, understands the crossing that's happening from Hatin. That's Dark Project over there. Giving up their spot over towards Camp Bravo, understanding that Hatin being open, they're going to head over there in the first place. So a nice move, one that I like the look of, honestly. Nexus poke their heads down here. And this is realistically what you should be doing if you are Nexus and you have the high ground. You see what you can get done. You don't find any more knocks. You don't find any initial openings. You leave. You go back up towards a position on that north side. They know that Cow's going to be pretty optimal towards the rest of the game. For AAR, though, that was such a simple fight versus Unicorns of Love. They dropped down almost instantly to try and overwhelm Elementrix. He had a great building to work with. There's that wall over there, and Becca came in absolute clutch.
This is interesting from the MADBULLS. They normally rotate a little bit further south on the bridge south of Pine Knot into a compound, but because of the northward shift on this circle, they've crossed north of Pine Knot, and I feel like that's taken Cave a little bit by surprise. They've taken 2 knocks, one of whom has been flushed, but they have managed to answer to 2 over towards MADBULLS. What can the players up the top do? Dimension wants to put an aid in, but the smokes start to bloom.
Yeah, with Moreau's going down as well now, it's only a matter of time for Dimension. He has to hit something here and break free. But what a nade from Zerich right over the top. Trickles down in front of him. Night-night.
Northern side, Nexus regroup up. But unfortunately, they've got Dark Project to deal with, and it's not going to be easy. However, Ivaneska and Wait have already been knocked, so traded off for 1 knock, sure. Resist possible in this scenario for both teams. Keme currently being looked after by Doran, but yet to get rezzed. Still a little bit more time on the clock for that one. Ivaneska back to his feet. Does Nexus still have a knock? A roll down the hill from Doran, wants to try and trample some of them, but Kapahala's left open. They turn their attention uphill as well because they know that Kapahala's not going to be stopping or hanging around. And look at the DBS shine. A sideswipe as well coming through as Kapahala hops out, and the M4 is there to punish.
Yeah, I mean, the DBS did the work that it needed to do, which was kind of a distraction. He's flown over the top of both of them there. That is slightly unfortunate. Was some style points, though. But again, for EXO, really good job from him. The only reason this fight plays out the way it does is because EXO left behind, stayed in the water, provided all the information across, and this is typically a horrible position to be in if you're a team moving through. It's very similar to Lakawi. If you drop there, there's a huge amount of loot to be had down at the dock side, but there are several compounds towards the west where you could look directly down to Lakawi. It's very similar here. Nexus has all the room to play around with. There's only really 1 rock that's hard cover for the guys of Dark Project to actually use it. Now Madness left behind, all is lonesome.
Becca falls down to the burn from Elementrix across the way.
Oh, 1 player?
Yeah, they're on 1 player now, and Team Doom still have 2 with 4 eliminations. I mean, they were in the middle of this maelstrom of teams moving past this compound, but seems like Team Doom might just have found what they were looking for. Excuse me here. I think this is 6 teams now that have moved into this compound.
Yeah, this has been a pretty hot spot on the map at the moment. Havlik looks to finish off Lino. Worried there's a full team in here. I mean, he just flushed 1 out, looking for 1 more. The rest, the Zeus is actually on your screen right now, just the western side of Sly Europe. So this has been a very odd game to start things off. KASIK team run themselves in towards MADBULLS, losing Zerich, losing Frozen. Only 1 player remaining there now for MADBULLS in Fleeke. You can imagine this is pretty much donezo now for MADBULLS.
Yeah, you've got to think that it's going to be pretty hard to make your way forwards from here. Still, they're in with a sliver of a chance on the northern shift. Rez coming through onto KASIK team, just about managing to make that one happen. As Fleeke is sent onto the northern side of Paradise Resort. Nobody in Paradise Resort, so safe for now.
Yeah, very surprising that no one's really in Paradise Resort other than Fleeke. I mean, he's given a right hand there, opening up to see quadruple aces. Not quite enough to win this round, though, because the Royal Flush coming through. I think for Game Lord, though, they've managed to make their way up. Now, this is the rotation I wanted to see them make. I've seen them do good work from the coastal side up into this spot. If they can find themselves a knock or 2 over towards Nexus, who have spent a lot of time up towards Cow now, I don't think it's going to end up there, personally. And I think Game Lord being able to get themselves here in the first place is gonna cause a few problems for Nexus. Obviously, they have the man advantage with 4 players alive. This is a position on the map they've won from before. I want to see Nexus continue with this same kind of approach. Gladiators, though, have moved in. Matic spotted. Exo, though, goodness me, this guy is cracked.
He's getting on with it. He's making the job a hell of a lot easier for the team. Kapahala tumbles down the hillside. Matic's taken a knock over across the way. As Nexus are regrouping, maybe turning around to get everyone out of dodge, sure, but puts them back into the fire. A little bit of a bandage going on as Kapahala dropped off by the hillside. Kitsune in this off angle could maybe find a little bit of damage, an inlet on towards the Nexus lines, but this North Shore crash still keeping Gladiators alive.
Yeah, they've taken their time about this as well, moved in as late as possible. MUERTE, though, have been on a long boat rotate at the moment, a boatation all the way down from the southwest island. You can see them just on the west side of your screen, starting to make inland now. Obviously, they will have lost a lot of HP just from the blue, but they've had so much time to loot up those medical supplies. I think it's feasible to stay out in the blue up until this point, stage 3, stage 4. It gets very dicey stage 4, but at this point in time, I think this is one of the smarter rotations you can make on Sanhok, particularly with the fact that the blue has been pushing in for a long while and the map is so small that making a rotation like this all the way from the southwest side is doable. This was this unbelievable shot coming through from Exo. What accuracy coming through from him. And I mean, for a guy that's been shifted in for 4 games yesterday, put up a marvelous amount of work, you kind of don't expect him to continue popping off as hard as he is right now. You know, you feel like that's one day, he blasts, and then, you know, goes back to a more reasonable standard. But he is bringing some fire to the team of Nexus they desperately needed.
The heat for now is bearable by Gladiators, though, and Keme is going to have to find a little bit more, but that is a very difficult res to get. You need some smokes to be operated on there. Doran managing to use the ridgeline of the beach just as it turns down towards the water to stay alive for the time being. And look at this, Exo just putting shots down, keeping Meku's neck winded in.
Yeah, it was a really good reshift, though, from Gladiators, honestly. The fact they were able to switch sides over towards where the circle has gone sets them ahead of Nexus. Nexus still have 4 players, and I believe that this team has lost Kitsune, which is unfortunate. He can spend more time now IGLing for the team, a little bit more focus on that, whereas the rest of the team is kind of more focused on that fragging element, right, and that tactical movement. So this still works out. I think losing Kitsune, though, you do lose that valuable off angle. He's very good when it comes to that informational game. So I think that one of the players will have to relegate themselves to that position of an off angle. But again, moving over towards Mongnai, Dagestan here, right towards a very nice compound. But there is a lot of teams still in this one with a lot of players. We culled so many players, so many teams, so much early on towards Paris Resort that this is much more free space. The MUERTE, though, get absolutely cut down on their approach and towards the circle. That rotation all for naught at this point in time.
He said it was smart, but you do need to convert on those positions. Nexus suffering to Narvalo with the DBS as they try and move down south. It's not going well for Nexus either now. MUERTE, sure, they've been slowed, but so have they. They can't really leave and get that back up over towards Kapahala, who has all of the eliminations for them right now.
Happy J. Exo's got to be careful here. Not even spotted him. Oh, dear. You got to check your angles. I was just praising the lad as well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You just didn't check your angle, and that's it. Happy J for MUERTE. Brings vengeance through the hills of Sanhok. It's not where you want to see it. Spotted out, maybe Keme has the answer. Indeed he does. Milky Way flushed out as Happy J fall. Last for MUERTE.
Might just be able to get their boy out of there. You never know. We'll see what happens. A lot of teams still in right now. Sly Europe slinging out in vehicles. See what they can get done. A lot of teams already having a base of operations to play around with here, John.
Yeah, Gladiators managing to push in from that northern side. Dagestan with the buildings. Probably one of the strongest spots here if they can hold it off against KASIK team and Avalanche, who both need to move in at the same time. South side for Sly may be playable here, as that compound on the junction is free right now. Nexus might try and move in.
Yeah, Keme at least in there right now. Gets 2 lads towards the center. The rest of Sly Europe starting to moving up. They've got that scouting done. They head towards the ridgeline that looks down towards his position. I do find it interesting that Nexus spent so much time trying to clear out Tap, Mok, and Cow. I think they could have made a similar rotation towards Gladiators. I think after they got that first initial knock on towards Kitsune, they should have pursued this. Cautiously, obviously, but I think they should have pursued that position as opposed to fighting all the teams coming in from that western side, which is one of the safer spots to come in.
Excuse me, gonna roll in to the compound Nexus currently share with them. Game Lord on their western side. Gladiators mounted up atop the hill. Just have a lot of oversight there. Avalanche on the eastern edge, struggling to get past Dagestan. It's the trio from Gladiators. I'm not too sure why they lost a player. It's just a little bit slap bang in the center on some buildings.
Yeah, they lost a player to Nexus earlier on. I think they got a nice cheeky shot on towards them, taking down Kitsune. This is why I said they should have pursued them, because they knew they were down at 3.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd already scouted out the majority of that northern side, which is why it's confusing. Now we have 2 teams occupying the same compound down towards Nexus and as well as Excuse Me. Gladiators have a really strong spot towards the middle, one that they shouldn't necessarily have had, honestly, but they have bided their time over towards that northwestern side. They came in not too late, not too early, and they got ahead of Nexus. I think they've made a lot of good moves to get here in the first place. Fleeke still riding it on his own over towards the center of the map. But right now we're looking at KASIK. You can see Sly Europe currently playing on this ridge line. They've got a lot of high ground to play around with. Obviously their vision is obscured by the tree line at the moment. The fact that Fleeke is still going though. Had information on this from earlier, considering a lot of MADBULLS were taken down by KASIK earlier on. Now just one player remaining with Kaz himself.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy on that south side with Sly Europe to your west and Dagestan to your northeast. The small sanctuary in front of you is occupied as well. PNL, last player out in the blue, found by Dagestan. The shift goes out east and Dagestan get a whole chunk of it.
Yeah, Dagestan in a nice spot now. It was, I think they didn't want to leave this compound. It's very strong. Has visibility down towards Gladiators. Sly Europe still can move around across the road, but it's going to be a rotation that will be difficult to make. In the meantime, Gladiators are trying to hold on towards that position on the western side. They're going to have a lot of teams to deal with, though, in the future, John.
They definitely are. I have indeed predicted the feel like in that previous circle especially, they were really, really central. They've got some decent sites to cover anyone trying to approach their position. And it's really only Game Lord, excuse me, the teams in that southwest compound that are going to have a chance to maybe push in there. Sly, I think it might be too far for them to go. So I feel like a top 3, if not able to clutch it out for Gladiators.
Yeah, but you're leaving out the information that you waited 30 seconds to whack that prediction in. You little cheater. Anyway, Fleeke.
Nothing changed.
Fleeke down towards MADBULLS. Still in a nice spot. No one's really taken up this position as of yet. Reflect does find at least one elimination. Starts to look down towards Fleeke's spot. This compound, most teams will assume that it has a full squad in it. The fact that no one's really probed it so far, and I think that maybe Sly is a bit worried because they have sensed that KASIK has been weakened from that position, which would suggest a full squad, but they have to go for this crash at some point. Zeus could be a problem in the back lines. He's being pushed in by the blue now, and I think Sly is just trying to clear out the entirety of the southern side before they make their next decisions.
Zeus crawling on forwards, surviving for Team Doom, but really unlikely with the blue zone tagging you at your back as well. You're going to have to stand up, you're going to have to move forwards. 3 players are right there. Excuse me, rolling on down. Game Lord from the northern side, and doesn't look like Gladiators are super aware of this position right now. See, they were still scouting out, but yeah, Game Lord are going to struggle. Sly right on the edge here to Zeus. Are going to take a bombardment of nades, but you can imagine as soon as he puts it out, they're going to know exactly where he is, put one back, and that's going to be the end of Team Doom. Might even just be the blue zone. Indeed it is. Fnatic goes down to a nade on the north side by Game Lord, but they are shut out. Meku can get the res.
Yeah, Dagestan doing a really good job there. And now Fleeke's position is massively influential. The fact that there's still only one player here, Sly Europe should really make the decision to go for the crash. They do lose a player on a knock. Dagestan controlling a lot of area at the moment, which is very, very well done. Excuse me, all the way on this western edge, has lost a player, starts to barrel their way forwards, have sightlines over towards Sly Europe. It's still this road in front of them. Smokes will be necessary for all of these teams, and Fleeke is getting a little worried, man.
Sly is still in this, and it's a very difficult march forwards for Excuse Me. Gladiators have a similar position to go for, but they do need to be worried about Zadira. And if that last engagement's anything to go by, they might be caught unawares by this angle. The zone will push Zadira in fractionally first, but Gladiators probably don't want to bide their time too much.
It's going to be tough. Sly Europe trying to remove the threat in Excuse Me. They're the main problem when it comes to crossing this road. And with one knockdown, Sly Europe might want to opt to try and move in, but it wasn't one they found. So I think for Sly Europe, they're still a little bit concerned. They're not sure how powerful this team currently is. Dagestan have sightlines over towards Gladiators. Tixi sending one back over towards Zadira is really good though.
Shifu as well on an angle to stymie the push. The 1-flush, 2-flush Gladiators falling like flies, but Neku has just managed to find a position in the circle to stay safe for the time being. Another Sly Europe player going down to Flique. This is a really strong hold as a solo player. Zadira did fall. Keep has to move out. You're kidding me. You are kidding me on this circle, dude.
I love this so much. The fact that he's had so much presence here and claimed this territory as his own is unbelievably good. Sly Europe continue to be harassed here, running low on utility, low on meds. Dagestan now at 4, a really strong proponent in this game.
You've got to imagine that teams think there's more than one player in this compound.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how many teams have come into contact with MADBULLS, how many of them will know that they are down to just one. So it'll be difficult to make that call to crash.
It was literally only KASIK. KASIK's the only team that's had that advantage so far. Excuse Me is still doing a really good job on this side, but they're about to be pushed in, and this is where life becomes extremely difficult for Excuse Me themselves. Reflect dodges a bullet there and a grenade.
Dagestan want to move through as Reflect is so close to them. He's still going. You are kidding. Mandarin falls, and Sly Europe are going to bits right now. Reflect really needs to hold this position down. A nade over towards MADBULLS would finish it. The circle, I mean, this is the way that MADBULLS could potentially, maybe, get into the top 3, but it would be kind of crazy. They know they're in nade range now. Shifu loses 1. Excuse Me spotted. Sly still under masses of pressure.
Yes, the Sheep is actually on such a good angle right now. Behind that rock, has so much vision towards all of this. And Dagestan have to move up. They have yet to spot out where Reflect is actually playing. None of those nades hit him, so they don't have the information. He hits a nasty one over towards Zadira, and will try and finish it off there. Gets an easy little nade over towards him. Keep should have a good idea of where they're now playing. Black moves up, and Zasheep is still doing work right now for Sly Europe. The fact that Flique has got so far is unbelievable.
It's winnable for him as well. That's the thing. 2 players maximum on anyone, and they're all on the outside. He has so much control. Limbo Boom shimmying through. 4 teams still remain blank as the final circle closes. Nobody healing here. Limbo Boom gets stood up on, and Reflect takes him down. Definitely position known now from the inside as Flique wants to try and slow it down. His teammates out as well. So it does need to be very, very careful. Reflect, always going to put a nade in Flique. This might be the end of the run. It's going to be the burn and the nade. All go into pot now. So the MADBULLS finally falling. 2 teams remain. Dagestan and Sly Europe are pushing for Reflect.
Oh, that's bold.
Keep has the angle. It's Dagestan all the way.
That was really, really bold from Sly Europe. I love that play from Reflect, though. Sees him pull out the nade, instantly moves in, but a very, very quick turnaround there from Dagestan. Keeps it together towards the end there, gets them the chicken dinner. Great job overall. I think Zashipa had a massive influence over that game, but massive props have to be given to Flique, of all people.
Absolutely. Very, very important to give that one over. Really nice stuff. A very chaotic ending, but MADBULLS get further than we thought, and Dagestan take it home.
Dagestan take it home indeed. They have that first chicken dinner of stage 2, and I know, Kalaris, you're like, what happened?
I can't believe Dagestan was this close to throwing this, to be perfectly honest. How on earth did we suddenly forget Reflect had made this Hail Mary send with the buggy all the way to there? Then to lose 2 players. I thought with the MG3 they were just going to spray through the grass to be able to take out Reflect there, but no, that didn't happen. By the skin of their teeth does Dagestan win this one against Sly, who I don't know how Reflect was making magic happen over there, but it was probably at the fault of Dagestan more so than anything. But they still get win. They still get the win.
They still get the win indeed and get those 10 placement points, 19 in total because of those elims as well, adding on to that tally. 5 placement points for, 12 elims. I mean, if we're talking about Sly here, that was such a bold move from them, especially from Reflect. But looking at the bottom as well of the table, you got your MUERTE, Unicorns of Love, Avalanche, Dark Project, and Cave. Especially want to highlight Cave here because, you know, as you mentioned yourself earlier, Kalaris, that's one of the teams that you are keeping a little bit of your eyes on. Yeah, you have 2 eyes. Yeah.
Both eyes. Yeah, that's right.
Both.
I mean, they're pretty good at Sanhok usually. However, this one going out pretty early, and again to kind of some of the big heavy hitters of Phase 1, it's not too much of a surprise. So we can kind of let them off for this one, even though they are good on the match. Yeah. Well,
we're going to let them off for this one, but let's look at it head-to-head because that closing out of that game, Sly against Dagestan, was so close. I mean, how's your heart rate going?
Quite rapid.
Okay.
Let's be real. So I've talked about Dagestan's position. They had a compound for a long time. They play out of it, and it kind of did come to the wire. They had to move out of that compound anyway. It kind of makes sense. What I'm quite surprised by is that no one identifies that Flique from MADBULLS is alone in that compound, in the center of this during it all. If Sly identifies this, and you can identify this by any other ways, by the way, like, yes, we're in TPP, and yes, people are kind of peeking around corners using that TPP method. However, when you see no one peeking and no one shooting your direction from a compound like that, or shooting in any direction from a compound like that, usually if it was a team that was 3 or 4 man strong in there, they would be flexing their muscles a bit. They would be trying to shoot at things that might come into vision of them and stuff like that. None of that happened. As Sly, you could potentially have crashed into that compound, dislodged him, and probably got the win from that. So, yeah, a little bit rough.
A little bit rough. Also, pressure, you know, decision-making under pressure sometimes. A lot of things to be keeping into consideration, and all in all, I mean, Sly still doing very well, both yesterday and today, this first game. Now it feels like they are finding their footing, they're getting that consistency, they're bringing it into these games, and they're giving us maybe a little bit of jump scares here and there, but they're doing all right.
And there were jump scares at the start of these highlights as well, Juniro. I can't believe we start talking about teams like Unicorns of Love, and unfortunately, a nade bounces off them, and they both go down to the nade. What a disaster for Unicorns of Love to start things off in this match. So hopefully it kind of smooths out from there, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. A lot of nade play, as usual. And all in all, I think, looking at this game specifically, it's a great way to start off Sanhok. It's a great way to start off the day. It's an absolute bloodbath wish. Something that we are expecting to see. Are you happy? Are you satisfied with your prediction, though? Because if I remember correctly, it was Blank that didn't get the point this time?
Yeah, what? My prediction of Sly that didn't win the game. I mean, yeah, okay, they got top 3, but I'm always kind of aiming for the win. And look, I mean, as we watch these final moments as well, he drove up to the rock and then shimmied to the left to try and find himself some room. And again, Dagestan really lost so much, so many of their members to that kind of play. Very surprised by it. Again, you know, you get the win. That's totally fine here, but it could have been a lot cleaner.
Yeah, let's have a look at the match report overall in terms of the damage done. Numbers moving up slightly. Excuse me, for the longest time, we're on the top of that leaderboard with their elims. I mean, they still are. But it wasn't enough for them to get that chicken dinner.
Yeah, the transitions for Excuse Me in this game were decent, though, I want to say. They went to a strong compound towards these circles, as it does happen. And because there was so much of a kind of build-up of teams over in the west side, they actually had a good opportunity to be able to shoot at a lot of things. And we're not seeing Excuse Me getting huge amounts of points off of the back of going for limbs and stuff like that. So this is a step in the right direction for a team that was kind of middling.
Yeah, absolutely. Baby steps. That's what we're seeing from a lot of the teams, and that's exactly what we need them to do. Overall, once again, have been impacted because Sly Europe are on top.
Not bad at all. Not bad. 46 points to their name here. I think, you know, when we look at how Sanhok is going, we'll have to especially keep our eyes on them in the next Sanhok if they're playing it. Yes, they should be, because they're Group A. No, yes, they're still Group A. So we will see them in another Sanhok today, and we'll see how they will fare on that, if they can continue that pace on the jungle. And I hope they do, because it's always kind of cool to see teams really carve out their niche almost, and when it's something like Sanhok, which again has kind of flipped a little bit in terms of the niche and the fact that you can't actually heal on that, it's cool to see them try and control the situations.
When it comes to Erangel as well, are there any niches in terms of strategies, teams, or even players that we should be keeping our eyes on?
I do think MADBULLS is kind of still the kings of Europe. I was going to say Europe. So the kings of Erangel. I think they have a really good understanding of how to transition from location to location and chase circles. Whereas a lot of teams that we watch on Erangel, sometimes, you know, they say, oh, okay, we've got a good compound and we're going to be able to stick to this and win this out. But MADBULLS is the one that I always see transitioning very well from fight to fight and then winning out games on Erangel.
Yeah, and they're just, you know, that's why they're called MADBULLS, because they're just like a bull going straight ahead at their target, which usually is going to be that chicken dinner. I want to kind of touch upon the MUERTE as well coming into this next one, because when we're looking at the MUERTE specifically over the last couple of playdays, it felt like after that incredible success on playday 6 for phase 1, as well as that Vikendi success where they got another 12 points, it feels like it's been a little bit more of a slower start. Coming into this, do you think potentially they're just, you know, need to get the engine rolling before they're actually able to just go head on at the competition? Or is it more of a, okay, we're had a couple of days off, it's maybe not the stage for us?
They'll rise back through. I do have confidence in their ability to rise back through. I mean, if we think about some of the days in phase 1 and especially that first day, honestly, they were kind of middling and invisible until all of a sudden that spark hit where they did get that victory against 2 4-man teams on the last game of Miramar of the day. So I think we're just looking for another spark for MUERTE after a little bit of a reset, considering that we had a little bit of a break before we got into phase 2. And I think they'll be able to pick it up again, because individually they're very skilled, very talented.
Yeah, absolutely. And other people who are very skilled and talented are those who are making these skins, because the new skins are gorgeous. We said it yesterday. They looked incredible. So take a peek. I really like the colors on Crimson. I think that's my favorite one of the new skins. Are we allowed to like play favorites here for skins? Because
no, the skins have feelings, Janero.
No, they have feelings. No. That's I completely understand that. I was gonna say I have feelings too, but like this new hovering on the chair is putting me a little lower than I expected. We have Erangel coming up next. I know we're gonna do predictions during stage 4 to see which team is gonna be closing it out. But do you have faith in Sly Europe coming into this one?
Not Erangel just yet, unfortunately. I think they still need to prove something to me on the grassy pastures for this map for sure, yeah.
Okay, the grassy pastures may not be Sly's forte, but MADBULLS, as we said, they're probably going to be taking this one head on. Take it by the bull. Take it by the horns. There you go.
That's the one.
That's the one. I'm trying to learn English, guys, okay? It's a little bit of a difficult language, but we have John and Blank, who are very good at English, to be covering the match on Erangel.
Well, you hope we're good enough at English here. But yeah, I've managed to find myself a lot more comfort moving forward into the start of this game, as hopefully teams like, who we're talking about, the MADBULLS, they have always been really quite strong on a map like this.
I have. My chair is so small. Make my chair bigger immediately.
It's tiny.
I request it. Yeah, we're heading over towards Erangel. I love how it's color coordinated with me as well. You know,
that is good.
The black and white chair, I like that a lot. But yeah, heading over towards Erangel right now, seeing if Sly Europe can continue their tyranny over on phase 2, but I don't think it will come to pass at the moment. 46 points, 5 matches. I think that, you know, they're pretty damn good on Sanhok, but some of their other maps definitely suffer. I think that Kalaris was mentioning this. I believe so. I think so. I'm going to trust my instinct, trust my gut on that one. But yeah, so we're not getting Gladiators into this game. Excuse me not playing, Cade not playing, Unicorns love not playing. Gladiators, although not extremely potent throughout this one in terms of like, they're really killing it, phase 2. They're still at 38 points. They're not far behind whatsoever. They keep putting up consistent points every single game. So I do think the Gladiators continue to stay on top. Major Pride, MADBULLS, tied. It's kind of crazy. All these teams with very similar players that we've seen a lot of times before really performing on the same level, with AAR currently at 39 points as well. Another surprising turn in for me too.
South side plane path. Nexus and MUERTE out early. Everyone's spreading out. We've seen conflict on these vehicles on a south plane path before. Does have a northern lilt to it on the eastern edge of that plane path, so maybe assuaging that somewhat.
Yeah, I think that the most interesting for me right now is definitely the fact that we're getting a little bit of a return to basics with MUERTE over towards Lipovka at the moment. Nexus down towards MUERTE Power. I like this. I think that, you know, maybe they can leverage some position from here. They still have Exo Machina in the squad, so I think they're running with this as like their usual in phase 2. I hope they continue with this as well. Exo obviously makes a few silly mistakes here and there. I think that that can certainly be excused, considering you have only been playing 4 games. That was your 5th game of the last one, but that is a nasty little circle up towards the northern side. And I think that a few teams, you know, one place in particular, North George, really free right now. Gladiators aren't in at the moment, so a swift rotation up on that western side could be useful. So someone like Dark Project or KONINA Power. This is all very interesting though. I'm liking this a lot.
Yeah, if you get up on that western side, you've got a lot of path as well to try and exact your influence over the hills on the south of shooting range as well. It's really, yeah, as you say, a really valuable spot. MADBULLS, they've had a little bit of a scrap here and there in Rozhok before. Dagestan kind of close to them. Major Pride kind of close to them, but at the moment it looks like Terminus is more preoccupied with SHOCKWAVE over by Ruins.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, SHOCKWAVE encroaching a little bit on Major Pride's territory. Monkey hasn't engaged. I think that's a good thing. You know, learning from past mistakes. I think for Major Pride, they've definitely reined things in a bit here, John. Considering yesterday they were very far into the territory of Rozhok, where MADBULLS actually found one of their players. I think this is a great opportunity for Major Pride to actually continue pushing forward, because they have been doing very, very well recently, and I want to see that continue. Dagestan getting a little bit of revenge over towards Sly Europe. Not that it's too much revenge, considering they won out that last game on Sanhok, but they certainly gave them a bad time, made it a lot more difficult than it needed to be.
Zadira trying to flee on the motorbike. Going to be able to get away from danger, but where are you going to go is the question. On their minds, I'm sure. Sly. Losing a player is not good, but that's that scrap over the vehicles. Northern push already. Yeah, SHOCKWAVE are really far and away. Trayson just dodging the bullets, like ultra instinct going on there. I love it.
He's in 2 places at once right now.
Shadow Clone Jutsu.
Yeah, he's even like using his back as a protection for the driver. There's no way that any wheels on that are going down. Slayer obviously losing a player early there. Mandarin down. I don't think he's the most influential player on the team, so I think this should be okay. SHOCKWAVE, though, taking up residence up in Severny. Now, for SHOCKWAVE, yes, they're getting a strong spot in Severny at the beginning of the game, but if you've been watching with us throughout the rest of the tournament, which I hope you have, if you haven't, it's okay, but if you have, kudos to you. We appreciate you being here. But you know that SHOCKWAVE usually gets absolutely punted out of Severny so many times. They really do struggle to hold on to this position, and more often not just give it up as soon as someone comes knocking. They're very generous like that.
Yeah, it's really nice of them. To be fair, what I do like right now is Terminus' position out on that western side. Without Gladiators being in this circle, that's their usual rotational spot. You said North George was a vacuum. Well, also their progressive rotation paths are generally going to be a little bit more free, and I feel like Terminus has read into that. So having that outpost on the west for SHOCKWAVE could be really, really important. Similarly for Trayson out on the east, although, to be fair, that's a little bit more usual in terms of being able to hold that area. I do kind of like that, so we'll see if Terminus opts to stay out there as an outpost or regroups and kind of just folds themselves back in.
Yeah, I think this is a very typical rotation, though I do think Shockwave's doing it wrong right now, honestly. I'm going to put that out there. I feel like people are going to call me out on this one because I'm obviously not a pro player or anything, but I've seen a lot of games, and I think you would usually send Terminus into that position a little bit further into the game, because that's when you're going to start seeing players moving over the top side of Zaki and past shooting range. You can get a lot of control. There we go, back on 4 wheels. You can get a lot of control over Severny just by heading over the top side of shooting range and controlling these roadsides, looking down into Severny itself. And there's a nice ridgeline that Gladiators like to play a lot of times. Terminus should realistically be out there a lot longer. A later part of the game. You know, it's scouting, right? You get a lot of information from that position. You don't get a lot of information being one of the only teams to send up here this early on. And now regrouping, I think Shockwave has little to no information around this area for the ensuing circles, which I think is gonna come back and bite them, especially when Dark Project can quite easily take that shooting range position now.
Yeah, Dark Project took that North George spot. No one really there to compete for it. Nexus still all the way down south with an F. Gonna maybe even, they could potentially even go for a wide rotation, but I think it's a little bit late to kind of set off on that journey to try and crash on the northern shore. And you've got a lot of ground on the eastern edge to get through, but so it's kind of an unnecessary Hail Mary kind of rotation. So I don't imagine we'll see it from them. In the central areas of the map, MADBULLS have moved north of the river as well, but not quite making it all the way up to Severny, as Shockwave have moved south as well.
Yeah, getting a little bit more central, Shockwave, I don't mind that. They are pretty clustered up right now. Again, information gain is going to be a little bit limited. For MADBULLS, they're just approaching a lot of these hotspots on the map. This particular 3-story has a lot of loot in it, has a lot of areas to hide and give chase to teams. This is more like a roadblock than anything. Game Lord, currently sitting in Yasnaya, have just let Sly Europe pass them by. But I think holding out here for a while, making sure there's no teams coming through Yasnaya means that they can make a rotation over the top side of the lake. That's just the north side of Yasnaya, which is not bad at all. We've got MUERTE on our screen right now, just getting ready for the long send. More than likely going to head up towards the top of Kameshki Way and over top of Stalba. This would be a pretty typical rotation, though we have seen them try and hold out Nexus before. It's gone kind of well. I'll say. They've taken down 1 or 2 players, but then stick around for too long. I don't want to see it this time.
Sly Europe on 3. Near the MADBULLS, Major Pride. That line towards Shockwave. Holding on those ridges. See if they can make it work. KASIK team just crossing the river now in the west of Rozhok over that central island. Very, very treacherous ground. Luckily, no one is over the other side of it. They won't come a cropper there. Might be able to guard out a team or 2 if they stick around, but actually most teams now have moved further north.
You're getting in position. Dark Project loses 1 player to KONINA Power. Their rotation slightly slow. I think that you have a lot of information down towards KONINA Power. Maybe you hold them out a little bit longer before making this rotate. Monkey doing exactly what I said Terminus should have done. Now this circle, disgusting. Major Pride would have been very happy if they had just remained in their position from before, but this is not a rotation or a circle that you think you're going to be making at this point in the game. A lot of these teams on the eastern edge hugely put out by this one, John, because their rotation completely scuffed now. This is where thinking on the fly comes into effect, and I think the best teams that can take advantage of this right now is Nexus and MUERTE. These two need to make a quick decision. They'll assume most teams will have moved north, which means Ruins, down towards School, Pachinki. These compounds are free, but right now they're hesitating. This is bad news.
Major Pride looks like they've almost immediately turned tail and gone straight back across the river on that central island. Ahead of KASIK team, in fact, to try and guard out teams starting to move back down south if they want it. Nexus to MUERTE. They make that quick decision, and the decision is, let's kill Kapahala. Let's get that done. They take him out of the mix, and Nexus lose a player, and a pivotal one at that. Chem8 now on the run. You need Exo Machina's shots out to the side of the vehicle to be able to stop this one from barreling you down.
Again, they make this same rotation time and time again, and it always comes back to bite them, where they chase Nexus down for too long. Nexus is going to get ahead of them now. They're outside the blue. They might stop off and try and take shots if they can find a position to do it from, in which case MUERTE might lose 1 or 2 players, because they've already taken a lot of damage from the blue, only take a couple of shots to pump them out the vehicle. A lot of times that's more of the difficult thing to make happen, which is the fact that you're trying to take down a player at full HP in a vehicle going very, very fast. But if only 1 or 2 bullets need to hit, then happy days. MUERTE, though, they break wide, head down towards the south. Please head down towards the south. Don't chase this. It's not worth it. There's so many good compounds you could be taking right now.
Team Doom as well, also very far on the south and going to be happy about this hard south shift. They were on the military island for a very, very long time, currently moving out of Ferry Pier towards Pachinki on the road. No one's really going to be around to stop them. The question is, where do they want to post up? Because they will be a little bit late to the party. Northern side of the river has now drained just a little bit and sent about half of its capacity down south. Osmosis working well.
Real nasty shift on the circle. We've seen this quite a lot in the past. This is before any of the circle changes were implemented, and I think we saw it more of them than we needed to. This is a difficult circle to play, a really difficult circle to play, and it certainly will test a lot of the players in these lobbies, but it's nice now that we only see it now and again. But that test is still here, you know, it's still just as difficult as before, and that test is realistically, where do you want to post up? We have a little bit of extra mass towards that south side, but a lot of it is that water, that river and the island, which is unplayable for a lot of the game. It's kind of a last resort type of decision. So a lot of teams trying to keep themselves close towards the coastal side, but next shift heads down, the island now focal position, but anyone that's already moved down, like KONINA Power, like Major Pride, is happy. One team, though, in particular, that is really, really pleased about this is Team Doom. You mentioned them before, John. They have been down in Sosnovia for so long, and I was like, what are you guys doing? There is a circle to get up towards. I think they knew something that we did not.
I mean, this is 2 really hard south shifts in a row, Blank. This is a very, very unlikely circle to have occurred. So you can imagine all of these teams are, as you say, improvising at this stage in the game. With those IGL brains needing to start to tick over into the red, I imagine people are going to start to make a couple of mistakes here and there.
Yeah, it's quite funny because we're already seeing one of those, and it's not a mistake that is on Game Lord's back, but, you know, they moved down towards MUERTE. They spotted out that rotation. They decided, you know, that is quite clustered. We're going to move back up towards Yaz side, cross the bridge, and maybe move over that island. Game Lord have played well from there before. It moves down towards the south. They have to quit that rotation over the bridge and move back down towards school. Luckily, because a lot of these teams shifted up towards the north quite quickly, they still have a little bit of room to play in. I think for Team Doom, they're going to be a real surprise factor for a lot of these teams. I don't think anyone's going to assume that someone's in this building that quickly.
Oh, it could be a little bit of a surprise there. Shockwave. They look pretty solid on that northern side, but it wasn't another team that punted them out of Severny this time. It was, in fact, the blue zone and these circles. Devilish indeed. If Shockwave can take control of this bridge on the west, it would be a very, very strong position to hold out the two teams to the north. Why a Nexus here? Hang on a minute. Didn't they start in MUERTE Power?
Yeah, they had to break wide from MUERTE, and they made the decision that, look, we're going to cross over East Rozhok Bridge, try and head on the north, find ourselves a compound, shifted south, and now Nexus is in a whole world of hurt at the moment. They might be able to get something done. Luckily, they're still at 3 players, which is fairly decent. They will have had to invest a couple of meds and supplies to get themselves back up to a decent HP standpoint.
Actually rolling over past Avalanche, hopefully. You'd imagine that's what they want to go for. Going out into the blue for Extra Machina, but Keme is embroiled now. There's no getting out of this one. Probably going to need a little bit of backup to make it through here. You can see Extra Machina turning around. Nade from Keme in hand being cooked, and Doran is there for backup as well. Keme wants to take down PNL. Will be able to get a little bit of damage as the blue zone envelops. Another nade over the top, 2 still in the back pocket, 3 Molotovs.
Oh, fade away.
There it is. The fade away, gets to the vehicle, turns it around, says, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll get the flush. Go on. Why not? CJ takes a hefty chunk there. Zalicio leads the charge away from this engagement. KASIK team might crash into them here.
Yeah, next circle's about to hit too, John. So at this point in time, we're getting scarily close towards the end of the game. And that is nasty once again, back up towards that northern side. This is a very, very difficult game for any of these teams to fully figure out.
KONINA Power on 4, kind of in those ruins with the majority of control there. ARR bearing the brunt of the teams out to the west, like SHOCKWAVE, like Dark Project as well on that southwest side. Gonna be difficult. Alicio gets a nade over towards Exo Machina, and Nexus and Avalanche really just going at each other right now. Not really too much choice about it either. CJ on the outside, spots Keme. What a jump shoot through there with the DBS. One and done. Doran maybe gonna have to nade on his teammates there. Actually gets value for it. Alicio, last standing now for Avalanche in a 1 versus 1. Put another nade through the door. Alicio opens it wide, puts one through the wind. That looks pretty good. It's not gonna be enough though. Doran stays alive.
Yeah, again, this all comes down towards chasing. MUERTE even suffered from this earlier on, heading up towards VIRTUS.PRO. It was such a tough circle to predict and analyze that I think for most teams, priority should have been on getting towards the circle itself, finding a compound and rethinking the strategy from there. MUERTE chased, they headed up towards VIRTUS.PRO, they found difficulty on that side, and now finally moved down towards an eastern position, but have the overlook from MUERTE on their side.
Tulika shots over towards VIRTUS.PRO. And the MADBULLS holding around the mouth of the bridge near Sunken, off of the island. Nexus still under fire. SHOCKWAVE have managed to make it to the south shores.
I mean, just about. Sly Europe down towards a tiny little compound. 3 players. A lot of these teams really suffering from the bounce here. It's been ping pong between the northern and the southern side. Finally, the south side gets one hell of a serve, hits the ace, and now we're firmly down towards this coast with that nasty little island still in view. KASIK know they've got problems ahead of them. They're on the northern side at the moment. Major Pride made some pretty astute rotations, though. I'll give them that they definitely did their scouting as they moved up and figured out a rotation that would get them back towards Sunken, one of their original drop spot, fairly safely. It's not necessarily towards the center, but like I said, having 4 members at this point in time is quite valuable. You can assume that if you're a team in this lobby, you have 4 players, you are one of the few, as opposed to one of the many.
It looks like, I think there's 5 or 6 teams that have 4, but a lot of them are outside of this next zone, and you imagine that number's going to thin very, very quickly. Dagestan on the southeast side, Team Doom on the south, needing to move on up. SHOCKWAVE out on the west, KASIK team on the north shore. These are all 4-player teams that are kind of cut out a little bit. MADBULLS have been trying to push through and doing so fairly successfully. 3 eliminations. Major Pride, KONINA Power, these are the 4-player teams that are on the inside.
Some interesting nades coming out from Effect here, dropping them into the water, trying to get rid of the Scouter, and Effect gets him off the side, quickly goes for the knock. These nades, although a bit random, certainly caused some panic on Frozen. Quick 1-2 punch there, really, really well done. Next circle's about to push in too, so for Fleeky and MADBULLS, that knock comes at the most disastrous time. Really good timing coming through from Effect there.
Major Pride slowing MADBULLS is going to be huge, but Effect goes down to a nade. They can capitalize on this. It's a little bit isolated. Put a nade in the same place. Dano has to move in to try and keep themselves at 4, a pivotal position on the northeast corner of Sunken City, to try and hold out the MADBULLS. No one really going to push in here with the circle as it is.
Gonna be scary, man. I'll tell you that now. Zerich tries to move up, gets absolutely barreled upon by a lot of different guns there. Fleeke drops down, but the smoke is good, keeps it protected for now, but they do have a backstop, which is the most important thing. And Effect still going strong here. Did get knocked, but back up in action extremely quickly.
No matter who you are, you step up to Effect. It's going to be it's not going to be the easiest time. The res is very possible here for Major Pride. The circle closing down onto KONINA Power's position means that both of them are going to have to leave. It's just frozen in the back there. Dagestan crash on up towards Sly Europe now, around these ruined walls. Try and find some sanctuary, but it's not going to be easy. Shots ring out towards Dagestan. 3 players for Sly Europe. Meanwhile, over on the northwestern side, SHOCKWAVE, who have been moving through fairly effectively so far on their cross, have managed to stay alive as 4. But you've got KASIK team, you've got NEXUS remnants as well on that northern side. Back over to the southeast, blank. Dagestan is still going.
Yeah, not bad as well, but this is such a terrifying battlefield to be playing in. So many different sight lines you have to be aware of. MUERTE in front of them too with 3 players. They've done a great job to reevaluate a lot of things that happened early on that game and get themselves back up into a position where they can play this out for maybe a top 3. KONINA Power in an unbelievably good spot. This is one of the best. I mean, they've set themselves up nice and early. They have the church to play from as well as Castle. They did lose a player for a second or two there versus Game Lord, but because they're up on high, they were able to get that player back up into action. We've all gone for KONINA Power. Janiro with Dagestan cheering them on and their assault from the southeast side.
Still 4 players alive, and look at that. They're taking Sly Europe to task because Zadira is on a warpath. Team Doom close by as well. A lot of points being accrued for Dagestan as time goes on. The more, the merrier, of course. And they roll through. Firing squad lighting up Sly Europe. Not a casualty to be seen. A little bit of damage, sure, but now Team Doom are the next up. MUERTE a little bit further ahead, but Dagestan are doing well here. 4 eliminations.
Yeah, really nice stuff there. Alloy tries to step up. Again, that position that KONINA Power currently holds is one of the few high grounds in this area that has really good cover to play from. There's a lot of positions there where it's difficult to hit a player, not only because they're in a position where they're up on high, but also these bars through the window. There's little bits of cover here and there. You can switch positions as opposed to being behind one spot the entire time. Major Pride, though, rocking up on Game Lord at the moment. KONINA Power have to react to this, a nade or something.
Major Pride moving in underneath. Game Lord were kind of helping KONINA Power hold this position somewhat. They held the lower ground, making it really hard for teams to push up. Victor could get rezzed here. If Dino steps too far, he's going to go down, but he's just scouting out the info. Will ping that straight away to his teammates. You can see Monkey, yep, over to the nade, cooking it up. They know exactly where they are. They're going to have to do something, or Monkey's just going to take them down. Okay, the pin gets put back in by the water. They have to slow it down. I don't think they can get a nade angle there. Might be able to hit it off the roof there if they can get that cheeky angle, but it's very hard to round that nade properly.
Yeah, for this it's kind of just a case of you give up the ghost, maybe move to a better position, try and get around the side. Frozen though in a crazy spot for KONINA Power. A regroup is very much necessary at this point in time over towards the rest of them who are in the center.
Yeah, that church is so valuable now. Leave the top of it. Dagestan are taking shots out towards Major Pride as well as they try to summit towards Castle, but it's just not going well. Fortunately, there are fights breaking out all across the way. KASIK team taking heavy punishment as they try and move in from the north. SHOCKWAVE are right there in their way.
I mean, SHOCKWAVE on the edge of this circle, struggle bus position, to be honest, but they have some good sight lines down towards the south. MUERTE actually hits a dirty nade over towards Fash there. Luckily, one goes back that way, so at least MUERTE is held up by that knock itself. The regroup had to come through. I knew it had to come through, and it does. It was a bit dangerous, but they did the job. By being on the top of that castle, it stops anyone from getting up there and closed them off into this really nasty position. You currently see MADBULLS, Game Lord, and Major Pride in, because they cannot get to the high ground. This is going to kind of eliminate a lot of this eastern side indirectly off the back of KONINA Power.
Looks like KONINA Power really want to go for that res. You saw some smokes being thrown out, but we'll see if they can. It looks like they are just going to give up the ghost on that. Well, no, they are still as 4. They did manage to get that res, so they did invest a lovely double nade coming through from Point Man on SHOCKWAVE. And to be able to slow KASIK team's approach down even further, burn them away. Think they're by the tree, not quite. By the rock even, further back. But 2 players on that ridgeline. KASIK, Magic trying to stay alive. That is big, big nade, and a knock on the backlines keeps them onto active. The nades just continue to pour through. What are you going to do? Don't even need to see a KASIK team wiped away by SHOCKWAVE.
Yeah, really nice couple of nades there coming from SHOCKWAVE. And very necessary as well to get those grenades through, because KASIK would have been a massive problem if SHOCKWAVE wanted to start moving down towards the south side. Terminus tries to take some high ground, but right now SHOCKWAVE is absolutely killing it. And I think that, you know, we said at the start of the game, they've been pretty much a pushover from this start of the phase, so it's nice to see them actually giving a little bit of that back now.
Dark Project being a little bit kept in the sidelines here, but the descent from the hills towards ruins is very open. See Team Doom still going with 3, and they're just going to light it up. Wait falls, Latte behind the tree, position known. Sure, there's more angles taking shots out this way as well. MUERTE probably have sightline here. Dagestan even over the heads of Doom. Might be able to take a shot or two. But right now, it's KONINA Power versus the world.
Yeah, this position does get pretty hot towards the end game. You can see right now that the reason that this is so difficult to play out and why there's so many teams here still with a lot of members is just look at all the cover in front of you. It is so difficult to spot out these players, and a lot of times this comes down to two teams usually trying to salt this team that's currently in church, and that is KONINA Power. So they're going to have to be absolutely on the ball, trying to get some knocks, trying to get some flushes. They need to cause casualties, but look at this. Fash, his level 3 vest completely demolished, no helmet. It's a struggle now because they are not going to get any more resupplies here on forward.
They're going to have to bank on someone crashing and wiping on them. And maybe Dark Project's the ones to do it. Now spot them out the window short. Meds, yeah, running a little bit thin here now for KONINA Power. They've been in one location for so long. They haven't had a resupply on pretty much anyone blank. Knocks and the eliminations they've got, I think, have been at distance. Damage sent up their way as well. They're still in the center. They've got to be careful about where they're investing their utility.
Yeah, every single little hit over towards KONINA Power is another medkit invested. They're having to rely on the back of stims, which they have very little of to begin with. So I think right now, for KONINA Power, they're going to have to really start slowing down things and only taking fights when it's absolutely necessary. Good Molotov through the door will push them back for now.
Robs, he's popping off with the DBS over on the northeastern side. Oh my goodness me, the elimination feed is going all Game Lord's way. It's looking very French right now on the northeast. Major Pride go down in a 2 versus 3. Really unfortunate. In the meantime, Aza's been knocked. Nades on in towards KONINA Power's stronghold in the center, and Shockwave Terminus on the roof is such a valuable position. The burn is good for 1 and 2 as well. Drops down. Oh, a really unfortunate drop there for Terminus. Has to challenge Fash, but Fash is going to get burnt away. And KONINA Power swept aside. Shockwave are doing so well. 14 eliminations now blank on the game.
Yeah, KONINA Power just had nothing left. I think that when we saw them, we thought it was a strong position, but they had no utility, no supplies. I don't think they've been in many fights either. But look at this. Dagestan still going. Janero's pick here. She trusted in them, to make the push, but 2 players down. It's looking a little bit dicey, but they have cover. They have resupplies here. Still can happen.
Definitely still possible. Game Lord fight on with 1. You saw what damage Robs was able to do with that DBS. That's why we've called him the artisan with it. One of the originators of it within the region. Obviously, it was a phenomenon that swept the globe. But really a front runner there and showing us that experience here.
Yeah, Rob's made it his own. I think that you talk to anyone in the EU about shotguns, and the name Rob's has to come up. It is unbelievable the amount of times he's clutched things out with that shotgun. And it is kind of his speciality move. In the meantime, though, Shockwave is absolutely on point this game. They have been so clean with it. Terminus survived. How?
He got through it. He got through it all. I think he got knocked in the fire and then Fash got rolled down by the rest of them. That is really unfortunate. Shockwave, brilliant crash from Shockwave, to be honest. That's really very, very well executed. I love sending a player up high.
Yeah, I mean, the initial Molotov through the door as well to get Terminus up there, it was a well-thought-out crash, and KONINA Power at that point were cowering just because they had nothing left in the tanks to keep people at bay. And I think they should have been paying more attention up towards that northern side because Shockwave were the real threat. Dark Project, they'd sent so many nades their way, I don't think it was necessarily. Rob's still nading, by the way. Takes down Terminus. Hang on a minute.
Moves up through the rocks. Robs is peppering back, but no further. The DBS will ring through the hills no more. But another knock over towards Shockwave. It looks like this church brings with it a curse. Right now, very difficult to really operate from, seemingly, but that northern side, there is an answer from it. He's on the high ground, spots weight in the smoke. Well, maybe not spots, but pre-fires it. Gets the knock he's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you better be posted up with the most amount of supplies you're on towards the church because it is just a place to... It's a place to lay rest, right? You know, you either die with a chicken dinner or you survive long enough to see a team take it off you. So Dagestan right now, getting pulled apart by Shockwave still. This wall is deadly. The question is how you get out of this one. You need smokes and everything, but Dagestan's still doing really good work. They need to get a knockover towards Shockwave to make this happen, because as soon as they leave this wall, and they will have to soon considering the circle is going to push them out of it, Shockwave's got to be prepared. Dark Project, though, still going strong, looking for one more knock, and they are taking the attention of Shockwave.
Yeah, but you can see, yeah, Snow. You're not going to get away with that one, I'm afraid. Limbo Boom trying to go Secret Agent Cody Banks, but looking more Johnny English right now. Not doing so hot. Limbo Boom not dead yet fully. Zeus last to go down, and Dagestan are still as 4, pushing in on these walls. Now Shockwave are going to have to leave, and Dark Project are going to get lit up. Shifu just peppering them, pushing on in, making Latte's life so horrible right now. And 4 players alive for Dagestan. Keep goes down in the back, playing on with 2 now. As Aza gets lit up, Shifu around the sides, wants to try and steal that one away, but it goes over to Snowix. Moves out, breaks wide, 2 players for Doom. Shockwave on 3, Trazen low, and Aza there to try and back them up. Shifu gets knocked, and it's just Zadira in the blue zone. Shockwave go down.
Yeah, completely deserved win there for Shockwave. What an unreal game for them. And we've seen similar things happen right towards the beginning, John. I think we've seen Shockwave come in from the edges of the map and just sweep downwards. It's weird that we're seeing it again here, and also more weird to me because, you know, Terminus really has turned things back up again. He has been a key player a lot of times for Shockwave, and there we see him again performing to a very, very high level, which is always lovely to see. I think that KONINA Power, they do not have the power right now.
No.
Yeah, they're a horse with no horseshoes.
They didn't have that resupply ready, and it was taken from them. Control wrested away, and in the end, it was the winning spot. So unfortunate that they lost it, but Shockwave have a blaster of a game.
Your order is here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jeannie, joined by Kalaris on the desk. And I know we are both kind of in like shock on how that went with Shockwave.
Well done, well done. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm in two minds, Janiro, if I'm perfectly honest with you. One half of my mind is saying, KONINA Power, you had church, castle ruins, and managed to flub so much of it. It was diabolical. And then on the other hand, you've got SHOCKWAVE arguably playing the game of the tournament so far. They had technically, compared to the other teams in the middle of this circle, no business winning this game, but they decided to just turn on God mode and get 20 eliminations alongside. I cannot believe what I just watched, Janiro.
Absolutely insane. 20 elims with those 10 placement points as well. You get 30 points from one game. I mean, currently the top team is Sly with like 40, 43 maybe. So they are like absolutely just push their rankings up to the max in like one game. And we said it as well earlier before we even headed into this game, the fact that one good game, one chicken dinner can really make the difference at the current time and the current pacing that everything is going. But look at Snowix.
This is some efficient play coming out from these guys. What a game for these guys. Like, so they were like, by no stretch of the imagination, gifted circles or anything like that. They were rolling from fight to fight. They were playing the edge. They were transitioning down into the ruins effectively. The fight that they take against KONINA Power to wrestle Church away from them was immaculate, where unfortunately for KONINA Power, they didn't have the right angles. All of them were in the middle of the Church. It's difficult to get higher angles on Church when you've got teams north of you because they can kind of see you. So SHOCKWAVE knew that, and they used that to their advantage very aggressively. And then once they've wrestled it away, they know no team is north of them, so they can start using the roof of Church as well to fire down on everybody else in route. I could talk about these scenarios for a long time, Janiro. This was
That's okay. You take your time.
It was so good.
It was so good, and the positioning used perfectly to a T. I mean, even yesterday we saw where I think it was Nexus that was on the high ground. They had a good positioning, but they didn't really use it to their advantage. So seeing this, absolutely beautiful. Let's also have a look at the best team stats or the match report here.
Oh.
No, I mean, what? Someone just hit copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Yeah. I mean, Snowix deserves this alongside the rest of his team as well. It was just absolutely brilliant. The funny thing is that it's similar to when we watched them take a win near Rozhok against Game Lord. Not in the sense that, you know, the terrain's similar and everything like that, because it's very, very different. But just in terms of the way they're moving through these circles and then controlling the edge play that they seem very, very good at. And if they do get that control of the edge play that they're utilizing, then it is difficult to stop them in some of these scenarios. They're showing that proficiency for sure.
Yeah, proficiency definitely coming out from the side of SHOCKWAVE. And I think, again, it's going to be really, it's setting the bar a little higher in terms of how we're going to see other teams performing and what we're going to be expecting from SHOCKWAVE as well. And it just feels like that's what's been the case every single day. The bar just gets pushed up a little higher. It goes a little further and a little further. So really great game. Looking forward to how SHOCKWAVE is going to be performing next.
Just to look at these highlights as well, one thing that I wanted to muse over is the idea that as the lobby increases in skill, and we are doing from season to season, and with all these players coming in, utility becomes more powerful and shotguns become more powerful. Because the more people that are living into these late game scenarios, then the tighter the fights get, the closer the fights get. As you can see them just denying here to try and get rid of some of the points here from SHOCKWAVE, considering they knew that they were going to be getting so many. Yeah, so the longer the games are going on and how strong these teams are, good job, Janiro, the more that utility and shotguns are going to become more valuable. And I think the lobby realizes this from phase to phase. We're seeing a lot more shotguns in play in some of these scenarios, and I'm all for it. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're kind of like in the camp of KONINA Power alongside Blank and John, but it felt like for them this time around, it just took a little too much out of them, but they still did a decent amount of damage, would you say? It was okay.
Shooting at things, but not really getting anything off of it, right? Okay, so a few things I think went awry. I think that you're holding your 2-2 split for too long across Church and Castle Ruins. That definitely hurt you a little bit, because if you're holding Castle Ruins and then you're scared about teams coming in from the backside of Castle Ruins, then all of a sudden you're taking cover in line of sight of teams that are miles away from you, south of Ruins, which causes problems. So get together earlier, probably on Church, because it is such a good holdout spot. And again, once a team is breaching you from the angle that they were doing, once SHOCKWAVE comes in from the west side, the north is likely to be open for you to be able to get some off angles against Shockwave when they're pushing in. So don't bottle yourselves up against that. But yeah, they fell apart in this one, and it's a little unfortunate considering they should have had some control.
A little unfortunate situation to be in, but what's not unfortunate is that we have 3 more maps coming your way, and also made available by Monster, because you know, the energy, gotta keep it going, gotta make sure that you don't do what KONINA Power did and start off really strong and go a little lower. Looking at the overall rankings as well, again impacted very heavily this time around because of how many points were secured by Shockwave. They are now sitting at 4th with 44 points, and Game Lord still, however, on top, 51 points. I'm sure Max right now is just looking at this and he's the happiest man on the planet.
And not too bad at all with Shockwave with the big bump up. 30 points going their way. So previously on 14 points, though, they were languishing down towards the bottom of the standings. But it's what we said at the beginning, Janira, right? Like, just one good game, and this was a very good game.
Absolutely.
Will jump you up into that top 3, top 4 positions. And kudos to Shockwave, because for me, for my money so far, this is the most impressive game of the tournament so far.
Yeah, we're going to be heading over to John and Blank because John stole my chair. So if you guys can ask him to give it back to me, that would be really good. Yeah. Thank you.
I did, in fact, manage to already sell that off. It's you know, it's memorabilia at this stage, so it's straight into the piggy bank, you know. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to contribute to the prize pool because it's already big enough for these teams, and that's what they're going to be chasing, those points moving towards those finals.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, a lot of teams are bouncing up and down this leaderboard at the moment, which is good to see. I do not like to see a finals where it's already decided from the minute it begins. So I think right now we've got a very stacked roster in terms of EU, which is always lovely. And other teams are starting to step up in a big way. Dagestan, Sly Europe, Game Lord, not teams that we would particularly be thinking would be right at the top there come phase 2. But I'm happy to see it. And I think for Game Lord, 51 points, these guys have just been putting up numbers every single game. They will not be playing out this Miramar though. Neither will MADBULLS, neither will AAR or Avalanche. That means there's a really big portion down towards San Martin, which is actually quite open, even in Hacienda. So if we do get a circle heading up here, this is a great place to be considering Game Lord as well as Avalanche play in that area a lot of times, and it's quite hotly contested just because of the amount of teams in that area. And what we're looking at right now is this particular bit of the map right here, which is good for rotational routes over towards El Azhar or even heading down towards El Pozo. And it means you can take up nice positions over here or even here, which is what winning spots that we saw from Major Pride on previous games. So I think for that in particular, you know, it's a good thing to keep in mind. This circle, not quite on our screen as of yet, but the playing path itself, heading down towards that south side to Miramar. Another position that is opened up because MADBULLS aren't playing is down towards Miramar itself. You can play this as a 2-2 split down here, even sending one player into this area. So you have a lot of room to play around with that one. So this is going to be an interesting map. I'd like to see as many teams as possible picking up interesting positions and taking advantage of the big amount of spaces that are missing here on Miramar.
Yeah, definitely some options, some choices to be made. Be very nice and nestled on in for Nexus already into Impala. Looks like they are taking these southeast edge positions, certainly over on Erangel before and Miramar as well for the one that we have today. That's going to be pretty good for them. Blank, a real hard southeast shift.
Really hard down towards that southeast side. Nexus in a good spot towards Impala. Great rotational areas out from here down towards Los Leones. Obviously we have KONINA Power down towards the center. Quite a poor game there on Erangel, which was practically gifted. Having Castle and Church both controlled at the same times, while in theory should be a free win. In practice, not always the same thing. You really do need to control those areas. You need to get a lot of loot on board beforehand. They were down towards South George for a long time. They chased it towards Dark Project, but again, that utilities ran dry very quickly. And even so, I think at that point, they should have been thinking about branching out a little bit of their pressure. And if they realized they couldn't hold Church, they should have regrouped on Castle, taken out the players on that eastern side, picked up as much loot as possible, and then moved back into Church later in the game. These are all good options. It doesn't always mean that you have to send for that central position. you can also take a position that's going to give you a better advantage in the long run. You have to think about what your current situation is and not necessarily where the best place in the circle is for you.
Yeah, it's where the skill of the IGL really comes to shine, is in those spots. Finding out what you can do, maximize your impact on the game, maximize your point scoring on the game as well. Because that's really what it's all about at the end. Even if you're not coming top, with 20 eliminations in that previous game, even if you don't go, even if you don't get the chicken dinner, you still won, right? Like it doesn't really matter which place you finish if you're able to get that many points just from eliminations.
Yeah, chicken dinners right now are kind of like the cherry on top of the pudding. So I think a lot of times these teams are more considering how do we barrel through a lot of these teams and leave just shrapnel and destruction in our wake, picking up as many eliminations as possible and tossing those all into the points pile, because at the moment you do need to be Dragon-like. You need to be picking up those points and hoarding them where you can, and you can't do that unless you are just sending through with the idea and the confidence of we are going to take it to whoever's in our path. And that's exactly what SHOCKWAVE did that last game, and they have done a very similar thing before. It's just odd that that draconian style seems to appear sometimes, and then they magically transform back into a bunny rabbit on other games.
It's a pretty impressive trick. Maybe I have to look into learning that one. So could be pretty valuable. I imagine there's a lot of scenarios, you know, it's just instantly just turn into a bunny rabbit. I feel like it would solve a lot of life.
Yeah, but if I was a dragon and I was back in, I would never choose the bunny rabbit form.
Yeah, but people would hunt you, right? Because there's like dragon hunters, but nobody hunts bunnies except for foxes.
I would be so strong as a dragon, though.
Do you think?
Yeah.
What color dragon would you be?
I'd be unstoppable. I'd be a red dragon, obviously.
Okay, I was going to say, unstoppable's an interesting color.
I'd be red. I feel like, you know, that is very typical dragon color, but
yeah,
it's also the best dragon color.
That is kind of true, yeah.
It's true there. Enough about dragons, though, to see a lot of these teams flying into position on the map. Obviously, down towards Los Leones is really our focal point at the moment. And we're really waiting for this next circle, in which case we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on that next circle, because Los Leones provides a lot of curious finishes, to say the least, considering it is such a urban area, right? But it's also one of the biggest, if not the biggest urban areas in the entirety of competitive. So for teams on this particular map, you can fit a lot in here. There's a lot of buildings you can take occupation in, and a lot of times this requires you to fight and fight hard for your position within Los Leones, so you can have that presence that we saw Flique have over on Sanhok as that one singular dude that no one wanted to crash into, despite it being almost a free win if any four-man team realized that that was only occupied by one single fella.
I mean, it was kind of helped out a little bit by the circle shifts on that one as well. But yeah, no, absolutely monstrous presence being felt. Nice little drop down for Shifu, minimizing drop damage on the wall. She's going to be able to sim that one back up after taking sprays over towards Cave, who have kind of split around Dagestan, but Dagestan themselves are kind of split as well. Nobody's really got that firm clump in Los Leones except for KONINA Power on that northwest.
Gladiators versus Dagestan have moved in, got that backside approach, which is good to see. Taking down at least one of the players there in Zadira, opening things up as well, because now Gladiators can get stuck in on this one. This is a very efficient third party to go for. It's something that Gladiators have excelled at recently as well, which is joining in on these third parties and more often than not clearing out both teams at the same time. Very aware of their surroundings as this team. Meku takes a lot of damage before he decides to go for the prone. Trying to figure out where those bullets were coming from, I imagine.
Yeah, Shifu was also the player who lit up one of the other Gladiators, so I feel like they just didn't quite figure out that he was on top of the construction building. Does drop down and reposition. You get 2 sprays, you're probably going to have to relocate. You imagine that you get spotted. Even if you aren't, it's safer just to not even play that risk.
Yeah, especially if Meku's up for that amount of time. You know, he's trying to dodge, trying to figure out where the bullets are coming from, spots that tower, and then realizes that's the locale. Shifu, I think personally, you know, he's in a team right now where he stands out particularly well, right? I think that you look at him and he does stick out quite a bit like a sore thumb on this team in the sense that he is very, very good. The rest of his team...
Wow.
This is what I say, is the rest of his team, although are decent, I think that this is one of the cases where we have a lot of teams in this lobby where I feel like the skill level of every single player is pretty even. I think on Dagestan, however, you know, there is a clear player in there in Shifu. He's really propping up that team at Dagestan.
Certainly need to figure out where else they can draw that strength. But right now, Dagestan are 3rd place on the tables, right? And you were that's kind of what you're saying, right? Is that it's really coming through from Shifu that they have to thank for getting there. I mean, you look at last week's play, they ended in 9th, very respectable position, obviously slap bang in the middle of the tables towards the end. So they're not, you know, they're not doing too poorly. So we'll see if they can try and find 1 or 2 extra pillars to try and build their buildings on. Circle shifts up northwest side.
Yeah, an interesting little shift as well, directly away from the city, which makes things quite awkward going forward. Gladiators posted themselves up on a team that was going to try and third-party a lot of these approaches down towards Los Leones and hope for this eastern shift. So quite interesting that it shifts up towards this side, because you really look down towards here, and this is all ridgeline, right, that has great sight lines down towards this side of the city, which obviously would set you up in a very good position to get in on the action towards Los Leones in the late game. However, with this shift, now teams have to figure out how they're going to locate themselves around this area. Now, the most efficient shift would be this one right here. This one being a lot cleaner, but Gladiators instead opt to go for this one. It's going to take them a bit longer, but it's unlikely as many teams are going to be around this area when they do finally inject.
You can see they are just skirting around on that line. Try and stay out of dodge there. Very central clumps for so many of these teams. It's almost impossible to see who's where at this stage. VIRTUS.PRO rocking up. This is a nice central area on the longhouse that they've managed to find. Nobody else there right now, but the ground around them is very, very open, and a lot of hills have sights over towards the spot.
My life. Gets the bumper right in the face. Yeah, very brutal. KASIK, currently quite central at the moment for this team. Again, down towards the south side of Picardo, quite open ground, a lot of ridges to play around. This is a lot like the rolling hills inside of Erangel, where you can pick yourselves up a nice spot and then have relative cover. The issue comes in of where you set yourself up, where you plant your feet, because a lot of times there can be this 360 angle, in which case you're constantly juggling these teams who are all assaulting you at the same time. So you have to be like Flique, be a presence, own a territory.
I think Flique's power, and we kind of touched on it during that game, was also due to the fact that they hadn't really come into contact with a lot of the teams that remained as well. So the less teams you fight, and you have a solo remaining in a central position like that, the less teams are going to expect that it is a solo in a central position like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they had that fight between them and KASIK was the only one that knew they were still there. And they tried to crash him because they knew that he was one of the final players from MADBULLS. But luckily, he was able to hold his own versus them, and the rest of them got picked up by Excuse Me, like you said. Back on this map, though, a bit of a different story, considering you'd imagine a lot of teams at this stage of the game will notice this as a pretty pivotal spot within the circle. Most teams starting to vacate outside of Los Leones. I do feel bad for Dagestan at this point in time, as well as Cave, because they have put a lot of onus on trying to own that space in Los Leones. They've invested utility, they've invested players, in fact. And the fact that it moves away from Los Leones means that was all for naught, and now they have to refigure out how they want to play this one. Europe, real central position at the moment, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the shift does still encompass a lot of Los Leones, so it's not for naught, but they are going to be caught out on the edge. Milky Way is very, very split from the rest of MUERTE right now. Can't really do too much, but instead of tries just to get out of dodge, does get behind the ridgeline. MUERTE do regroup on this. Maybe they want to go for this crash, because the push in on this western point might be one of the easiest.
Yeah, again, we talked about this earlier, is it was going to be awkward for Gladiators to get around here. It would take a bit longer, but it was going to give them more free reign to push in towards this position. Dagestan rock up on Major Pride, though.
It looks like it's going, well, not great for anyone, but Keep is trying to maintain power, play spoiler, Major Pride. They lost 2, but they win on the crash. They take control of this position, and it's really good for dealing with the teams to their south. KONINA Power is going to have a struggle to push on forwards. Cave as well might not have the easiest time getting out of the area. Dark Project on that northwestern side going to push in past KASIK team. All of these teams now left outside the circle going to have a hard time.
Yeah, difficult to predict for KONINA Power there, but they might have been better off actually leaving that one player from Dagestan still up. The fact that they were down to 2, that could have resulted in 1 or 2 knocks or a flush over towards Major Pride. This was messy. And the thing is, if you have only 2 players left from Major Pride, KONINA Power could quite easily rock up on towards that position and try and finish out that fight, because it is further in towards the circle for them, and it would have been a good landing post. Now, if they crash it, they're crashing into 4 players, as opposed to a weakened team that is potentially still trying to finish out their game. But it feels like KONINA Power is much more invested on trying to hold out these players down towards the southwest side. It looks like Gladiators are going to give MUERTE the slip, pretends to move down towards the southeast, and now is moving back up towards the north. Interesting plays.
MUERTE moving past the city, really not doing too great on it either. Shots going back and forth, but MUERTE really suffering. Another knock over towards KONINA Power. Agorazin and Fash left standing. Fash on a sliver of HP, but Milky Way is found, cut down on the cross. Agorazin wants to put a nade in to finish things off, but Matic chimes in, and they want a third party here. You can see them just enveloping with a hook on that western edge. Gonna take shots back and forth. Discrim, the last player now for MUERTE. A nade over towards Agorazin. Needs to be careful, but it bursts outside. Pushes out wide. No teammates to res, so just playing solo now.
Yeah, Malloy remaining hidden, but here comes Gladiators. Only 2 of them, though. Looking to get invested. They know there's still an ongoing fight, so if they can just apply some pressure.
There it is. There's that pressure. I don't think they know Malloy's here. Otherwise, I imagine Tixie wouldn't be looting a crate right behind him. Calling that one out to a teammate. You just want to get out. Now he knows. Certainly. Maybe. No. More preoccupied, to be fair, with Wait out in the field. Should be looking for these flushes. Wait, yeah, your buggy's going to go if you don't. I don't think so. Tixie does get that flush finally. Now against 2. Wants to take a little bit more, but with Meku going down, maybe doesn't want to overinvest here. Has a teammate close to Meku. Matic is there. Another nade in, a Discrim. It's right on the money, but it's not quite enough.
Tixie moves out. Kitsune assisting in the back. Another nade goes over and out. Looks if they can get a little bit of damage. Can't find it. This smoke is dangerous. Now for Gladiators pushing in towards that position, you know, it's a coin flip, right? Can you find the players in the smoke before they find you? It's a gamble. And I think Gladiators with 4 players would much rather go for the safe play and remain as 4.
Oh, a nade in through the window. Not suppressed by excuse me just yet. That's where these shots are tagging Kitsune from. Can't really commit to the res, and yeah, another nade just sees it. You don't want to play silly buggers in the smoke. You just got to go in, put that ordnance down, get those eliminations. Now Gladiators have cleared out the western side.
Yeah, it's a great play from Gladiators there. I think that they played that smart. You know, a lot of teams would have invested quite hard onto that fight, into that engagement. Team Doom really is nothing doing here versus VIRTUS.PRO. They've dealt with this crash quite easily. Stuck on the stairs though.
A little bit. Does finally get the knock up the stairs, and only 1 more player left to deal with on the outside. You can imagine that's not going to last too long. Zeus last to fall. Team Doom will not take the control of VIRTUS.PRO, who did manage to get into this area very, very early on, Blank. I spoke about how they could get into this longhouse and play around it. But it's very open around them. A lot of hillsides difficult. They're right in the next circle, however.
Yeah, they don't have many sightlines outwards, right? They're in this ditch, and they need to figure out how they want to play this and going forward. I think the best thing for them to do would be clearing out that northern side, but not a huge amount of sightlines for them again, and they will be swarmed at some point. The real difficulty is there's not many places for them to go, John. Getting out from this position, there's going to be so many players looking down towards them. They have to hold this out for a little bit longer, wait for the circle to push more teams in, and then move with the tide.
Try and follow that longshore drift. Zigzagging on through the wastelands. Unicorns of Love, northeast side, playing in their warehouses. Beast has a nice little bit of high ground there. Trying to get a little bit of distance. 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 Trying to get a little bit of distance to get some scouting done. Shockwave, Northern push. We've seen them just come off. As Kale said, one of the best games we've seen so far this tournament. Hopefully they can convert on that power. This time around they've been a little bit more quiet, but they haven't had to frag out.
Yeah, I mean, pushing through now, they certainly will have to pick a spot and try and hold it. Circle 5, about to hit here. Slayer still with 4 players, dead central. Tend to do quite well on these games when they do have 4 players still up and a central position. But southwest shift here. Dark Project with Wait as their last member. Gladiators still playing up on high, can control these roadsides, John.
Yeah, Gladiators look pretty solid in their position on that side. If Excuse Me go down, which is going to be a difficult push from the south, then they're going to be opened up a lot more. KASIK team are going to have to cross or move up at least and into the sight lines of VIRTUS.PRO. Sly Europe right now also in a pretty solid spot.
Pretty solid spot indeed. Difficult is they don't have the huge amount of high ground to play around with. Major Pride have a nice position to really work control with the high ground looking down to a lot of these players.
Yeah, that position just northwest of Los Leones. NEXUS will have to leave their position on the east. Try and scout something. The hills just to the east of Major Pride might provide some sanctuary, and Kame is going to scout towards them already. Unicorns of Love, however, might actually slow things down a touch as they want to take a 2-phase rotation, move down, clear out NEXUS, and then move on. But NEXUS have other ideas. They're just going to go and commit to regrouping towards Keme, certainly with their north road side.
Yeah, the issue that NEXUS is currently having at the moment is that there's not a lot of escape routes for them, so they have to send nades over the top, battle back the guys from Unicorns of Love. Luckily for them, at the moment, Unicorns of Love only sent 2 forwards, so perhaps leaving will be a little bit easier, and with that backstop now fully set up from Keme, as well as Kapahala, could be a game for them.
Gladiators are rolling on down. I gave my prediction. Major Pride double for the desk. And rightly so, a strong position. Excuse Me under pressure now as Gladiators decide to start their sweep to move on through. Meku taken low, but 2 players knocked on Excuse Me is not good news. They haven't even got an answer here. Matic knows there's a player on this box. Havlik needs to worry, but Black is there with the backup around the side, going very, very low, wants to put another nade in, and Matic getting spotted, shot from somewhere. Effect is the one to see it. And Major Pride, this is that high ground compound that you were talking about, that the desk puts stock in as well. What more can you do here? There's very little for Excuse Me to find. 3 players knocked, just Black still going. Tixi on the outside. A nade in and bouncing off the wall could be good. A lot of damage, and Meku is knocked as well, but the burn is on, and Black will fall. Meku can get rezzed there, unless that nade took him a little bit too low. No, it wasn't going to happen. Kitsune wants to smoke, wants the loot from his teammate, and a resupply for Gladiators on the south. Still, Major Pride, the fortress.
Yeah, it's a really strong position. Gladiators are going to have a bit of difficulty getting out from this one. It's open ground in front of them. I wonder how many of the vehicles that Major Pride were able to pop out as well. Doharin barely gets on the motorbike before he gets shunted back off again. The thing definitely didn't want to be ridden there.
It's going to kick like a mule. It's going to sting like a wasp as well to lose a player like that. Wait, getting knocked as well. Dark Project flushed away. KASIK team trying to move central, but it's so tricky. Sly Europe on the edge still have this massive ridgeline in front of them. If they can clear out their northern side from Shockwave, they have such a strong spot to be able to look towards Major Pride and take picks.
Yeah, their main advantage right now is the fact that they do have this ridge side and the road in front of them. I think they're in more danger than anyone else in the circle at the moment. Trazen going down is a really good start. Nice shots from Manda in there.
Manda in with sightlines over towards VIRTUS.PRO's crossing as well. Shockwave also seemingly agreeing to a ceasefire with Sly Europe and stymieing the teams that could give them pause in the next circles. Gladiators went and swung all the way back out to the western edge. You can see Tixi and Meku just putting their foot in. Meku actually moving quite far forwards. That's very bold. But in the push, comes back from the back. Cave moving up towards Major Pride. Keme as well from Nexus might get that backstab, as well as Exo Makeda slowing Cave down. Position given away, though, on that south side to the hold.
VIRTUS.PRO doing exactly what we thought they would do, is moving in with the tide here, John, which is really smart. Waiting for the circle to push everyone out and then getting down towards this roadside where they can start to play with. Unfortunately, they are on the low ground. And it poses a bit of a problem to SHOCKWAVE because they have this side swipe on them. With Sly Europe in front of them, VIRTUS.PRO might want to get rid of them. Vehicle moving through the smoke. Sly needs to be ready for this, but gets caught in the car. Doesn't see it through the smoke. That has to back it up.
Luckily, still has the smoke train, and SHOCKWAVE can continue to put pressure on. Sly Europe holding off on a crash. 3 players in the same place. It's dangerous for nades, but they spread out. They assuage that fear. Reflect needs a knock here, but will not be able to find it. Terminus has fallen. Snowix is low. Teammate even lower. Moving on forwards, and Sly Europe are holding strong against SHOCKWAVE's push. They executed perfectly on Erangel, but here they will fall short of the mark. And Sly Europe hold on with 4, but VIRTUS.PRO are moving in.
Yeah, need to be worried about this. Next, Keme comes through. Still got Exo moving with him down towards that south side. Takes a couple of shots here, but Sly need to get back up on their feet as fast as possible because VIRTUS.PRO still a looming threat. They're on the low ground.
Seems like everybody's realized this ridge in front of Sly Europe is so powerful and everyone wants a chance at it. VIRTUS.PRO are stopping them from pushing all the way up top here, and Keme being on this side is such a thorn in them. It's so difficult to move out against this. You just don't know how many players are on this hillside already.
Nade over the top, goes long, bounces off the top of the house. For Keme, though, a bit worried, might want to move back down towards the rest of his team. Sly Europe's been pretty much locked out of a lot of fighting, which has kept them safe. Nomi finally picks up Exo, and Keme's just not there to assist.
See the roof of the buggy. Yeah, Keme gonna have to go solo. Sly Europe are gonna start to trudge on out of the buildings and move up this hillside. Keme, yeah, there's no chance you get away from this one. Sly Europe take it away, and now they can use this ridge line. The power is there. Gladiators have fanned out on the southwest though, Blank.
Yeah, Major Pride not able to lock them down as they came out. Down to 3 players. 5 teams remaining. VIRTUS.PRO have played this one out nice and slow, actually, taking their chances with that movement coming from SHOCKWAVE. Circle heads dead center, and Sly's got a difficult move to make because obviously they had so much protection from a lot of these teams looking over this roadside trying to clear it out, but now their big difficulty is the fact that they've got no information coming into the remainder of this game.
Major Pride also are going to have to move here, Blank. They will be pushed out of their compound and into the sightlines of Sly Europe, who are going to move similarly timed, I imagine. Gladiators, really the only team with a firm entrenchment here, with the ridgelines on the west of the next circle. VIRTUS.PRO suffering heavily in the scopes of Sly Europe. Lighten them up. So difficult to get away from, but in comes the answer. A crash on the cards for Sly Europe, and it needs to be held off of Hayes. Falls to the DBS close range. Purple tries to shut them down, but it will not happen.
Great play.
Excellently moved, but here comes KASIK from the top rope. Not out of it just yet. Goes for 1. Needs to drop back. 2 first aids in hand in the bag. We'll have to invest 1 here, you'd imagine, as Major Pride look to swing out onto the north side, but they're split. They divert towards Tixi. He's backed them off, or tried to anyway, as Meku on the back wants to hold them off. So many teams making their moves now, Blank.
Yeah, Sly Europe again. This is something that's time and time again happened to them. They're very good at regrouping, reforming, and reevaluating. It's very nice to see them be able to rejuvenate in the middle of the fight. I mean, they keep losing players, and the blue now is the biggest problem for them. Luckily, ahead of them is fairly clear. But where do they go from here? Quickly brought onto the back here. Nice stuff. You got to bring your boys all the way to the end here. 4 players still alive. Tixi, great shots over towards Nomi.
But it is going to be shut down. Meku is in the location, but too far away to stop the flush. Major Pride have taken 2 knocks, and they're playing at 2 right now. Effect is there. Effect should be spotted by Meku, but he just dips back into the smoke. The reses can come through for Major Pride, but Sly Europe will be a major contender here on this northeast side. KASIK team is still going with Ingush, and I wonder if Kitsune knows about it on that northwest side. He's not looking out for it.
Ingush looking out in towards the blue, trying to keep himself as inconspicuous as possible. The duo from Gladiators, never to be underestimated, John. These guys are absolutely fearsome when it comes to battling out towards the end to try and get as many points as possible. Penchik will need to heal up. Kitsune keeping good eyes on this cross.
Trying to light up the side, but can't really commit here. Is too split for Meku to go down. So just slowing out this cross is going to be good. The Sly Europe can't really capitalize on it just yet. Kitsune into a vehicle, just shunting forwards a little bit. Ingush, is he crawling backwards away from the smoke? Major Pride are going to roll down the hill now. They want to clear out Meku. They start beeping the horns and they're going to know that it's fighting on the cards now. Who's going to take the ballot? Sly Europe, I don't think have eyes on this push as they swung down behind this ridgeline. Major Pride have 2 Gladiators to deal with.
Yeah, setting themselves up for the long game here. Watching as teams are pushed in. Major Pride have a very open slope to work with. Penchik has to hit the deck. Reflect extremely low. Surprised that he got out of that one.
Major Pride going to be shunted forwards even further. And Sly Europe can start to move up. Kitsune will have a little bit of a sightline on this, but really doesn't want to overinvest, can't peek with Major Pride in the position that they are. Oh, English has been spotted. This should be the end for it. Yeah, he's definitely been seen, has to get up, has to try and dodge through these bullets. We'll be able to do so. Reflect takes a lot of damage, and Meku taking shots out towards Major Pride. He's not out of it. And he's going to try and continue the bombardment. Might have broadside.
Kitsune, Meku still up, playing a really nice angle. Unfortunately, the blue is going to push him in. Mandarin just about gets out of the way, trying to play this off angle. He's right on the edge, but lives it. They have played a real courageous game. They've made moves that have been extremely dangerous, but they want this chicken dinner.
All of these teams are bloodthirsty this game. 14 eliminations coming through from Sly Europe, 10 from Major Pride, and 11 from Gladiators. This is a hard-fought circle. Nobody has not been through it. And there's the lights up. First open on towards Major Pride. And a lot of damage sent back as well. Gladiators regroup for the first time in a long time, and Meku gets that knock. 2 players down, 1 from either of the 4-player squads, and more damage pouring in towards Major Pride. Sly Europe will have an angle. They are just looking for anything they can find. Effect now being torn to pieces, will go down. That goes through towards Kitsune, who's holding it down, and Gladiators just take them out. Reflectors knocked the 4 position. It's a 2 versus 2 here. Meku and Kitsune, do not underestimate, but the nade is high and good for Mandarin. Right on target.
Oh, it's massive.
Oh, that is huge. Nearly taken both of them down, but not quite able to. They split up. They know they can't afford to take another nade like that, as they will pour through. Kitsune gets that heal off, and crucially timed as well. Res possible now. Meku and Kitsune know there's a player downhill. Take out the information gatherer up the top. Will be able to ping this one back. The res onto Reflect, can invest on a heal, but the zone is closing. Mandarin draws closer. And the nade over the top splits the 2. Meku low, might dodge right into the nade. The Molotov is good. And now Kitsune in a 1 versus 3. He was so strong in yesterday's games, but will not be able to do it here. Sly Europe take home a massive chicken dinner. This is a day of war blank as teams take huge elimination chickens.
Yeah, that was a ridiculously good game from Sly Europe. So many chances for them to go down, and so many positions that they took which were like very dangerous, but also kind of necessary for them to win that game out. They knew they had to have a lot of angles, and I think Zashipa actually sending up on that high ground, taking shots towards Major Pride, slowing them down. It was a sacrifice play, right? It's one of those plays where you're almost certain you're not going to get away with this type of thing, but goes for it anyway, and it forces Major Pride into a problem scenario where they either push down towards Meku, and he's going to take them out, or they push out and they get seen by this side swipe that Sly already set up earlier. It was very, very well done.
A massive nade from Mandarin as well, really squeezed the juice out of the Gladiators' final fight there. Pivotal, I would say, completely changed the pace of that one, but the Gladiators fall at the final hurdle with a high elimination game, 2nd place. It's going to be bipped to the post by Sly Europe.
Welcome to the analyst desk. I'm Gina, your host, and this is Kalaris, the analyst. Wait, it's inverted, so it's that way. It takes a while to get this right. It gets more difficult than you imagine, but that game, I feel like I'm going to say this about every single game we've seen so far at Stage 2, but it's always towards the end that it becomes an absolute nail-biter.
Yeah, this was another banger match after what we just saw from SHOCKWAVE here, with the top 3 teams really taking the lion's share of the points. Gladiators played an insane game from the west. Sly was playing very well in the north, and Major Pride, kind of got a little bit choked up. But all 3 of these teams getting some big points on the board, and Sly, they've come alive. I'm going to quote Max, they've come alive. Amazing.
Yeah. They've absolutely smashed it this time around. They did a really great defense on the northeast and splitting up as well coming into it. But all in all, great performance from every single one of these top teams here. I mean, all of us kind of... I mean, we had split predictions in that case. So anyway, head-to-head looking at it from Sly against Gladiators. I mean, it was very close down to the wire, but Gladiators take it in terms of the damage. But the limbs and the assists are very heavily, very heavily favored in terms of Sly.
I think Blank is more convinced than any of us by Sly so far here. He's gone for them multiple times in the predictions, gets this one right as well. With how they're playing things out, you could see in the final moments of this game, their attempt at controlling multiple angles. I love that when we're seeing these kind of final circles play out, because it does show a good mastery over the terrain and a good understanding of where they need to be able to put pressure on other teams around them here. So for Sly, yeah, I think we're seeing them level up from the previous phase into this phase, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, absolutely. That momentum keeps going in, but also Major Pride is one of those teams that towards the end of phase 1 kind of creeped up a little bit more, and now we're consistently seeing them in those podium finishes, getting third this time around, damage, the assist, the limbs. I mean, the roster is coming together and they're gelling together quite well.
Damage received, 1337. I'll take that. That is...
I mean, they took it.
I haven't seen that number in a long time, you know? It's old elite speak. We'll go for it for now. So, but I think Major Pride, a lot of us went with them here. Nomi was able to do a little bit in this game alongside guys like, geez, Kitsune doing over 1,000 damage coming in. But for Major Pride, they moved away from their plateau a little early, I think. They were driving around all fours in cars, and I think ultimately that probably didn't do them any favors, but it did get difficult when it was that 3-way fight between these squads.
Yeah, it was down to the wire again when we're seeing these teams compete. And all in all, I'm quite impressed by the fact that momentum from last week has been carried on to this week as well. And we're seeing continuous improvement. It feels like coming into this as well, Kalaris, you really said SHOCKWAVE. Yes, they have convinced me when it comes to Erangel. Not so sure how that's going to look here. But this time around, do you think that the convincing needs, is it there? Is there anything else that needs to change when it comes to SHOCKWAVE?
Are you asking about them on Miramar or?
Miramar, yes, correct.
I mean, so they did get taken out by Sly, right, on that north side. I think they come into a circle like this just a little bit too late, because as you slowly see these circles narrow down, there is a lot of area in these kinds of circles that is super open. So if you're playing Edge, coming in late, chances are you're going to be running into a lot of teams on the edge that are probably going to take you out on that kind of gatekeeping scenario. So yeah, for SHOCKWAVE, sometimes their strategy of playing edge strongly is not going to work in a circle like this because there is so many teams playing edge.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, when we're looking at the utility used once the circle kind of starts to close, it's becoming increasingly more important and increasingly more expended during those periods of time. And would you say potentially some of these teams that are coming in too late, that util usage is not on point yet either?
Debatable, depending on which team, you know, we're looking at, etc., and things like that. I didn't quite see, for example, how it was going up against SHOCKWAVE. I think Sly did a good job of holding them out with their utility. But in circles like this, for example, when you're trying to get in, because it is so open, you're going to need an insane amount of smokes. So even if it is, you know, you using your utility to try to offensively get to where you need to be, you're talking 10, 12 smokes to try and get somewhere that's decent. So that can be precarious.
That's a lot of smokes that you're going to need to use, but also a lot of points here that we've seen some of these teams rack up in general just because of those limbs and those placements points. It feels like as well when we're looking at the ways that these teams are racking up these points. It's been very limb heavy towards the top side of the board this time around Kolaris, whereas last week specifically, it felt a little bit more even in terms of elimination points going through everyone, so to say, in the game.
Yeah, I like it too, because with the points change that we had in terms of placements, I do think you watch some of these teams that are a limb heavy, and generally with a limbs, when you're able to go out there and flex your muscles a little bit and get those limbs, generally the points will come with that as well eventually. They're just so strong.
Yeah, I got the muscles, guys. Obviously, this is totally not like my jumper.
That is a big jumper. I'm gonna be real. That's a very big jumper.
Big jumper, big chair. It's just a small genie in a wide world. In a big wide world. Sly Europe, though, also having a big wide gap between them and the Gladiators. It's slowly but very consistently growing.
I think for a lot of people, they would not have expected Sly to come out and blast the way they have in Phase 2. Clearly, something is going right for them. Clearly, the adjustments that they've made between Phase 1 and Phase 2 are working out. They do look like a bit of a different beast. They're taking better angles. They're taking multiple angles. It takes confidence to spread out when you're, say, 3 alive, for example, and go for a 1-1-1 split. We saw Gladiators do that here in this game as well. Doesn't quite work out, but you can see that these are hallmarks of a team that is not only able to win championships, but go on to PMGC as well down the line. I'm not saying Sly's going to go to PMGC by any stretch, but these are the things that you need in your toolbox, in your arsenal, to be able to be competitive at that level.
Yeah, I want to look at the MUERTE specifically here and how they're currently 14th. Doom seems to have moved up the rankings. Last time around, Stage 1, they were very much sitting towards the bottom of the table. But when we're looking at Doom, the MUERTE, and Cave, feels like it's very close and very similar in terms of how they've been playing it recently. And with the very convincing performance that we've seen from the MUERTE in Stage 1, Kolaris, I mean, I know you said it already that it's just one of those teams potentially needs a little bit more time of heating up and coming into it. But it feels like all in all, it's been a little lackluster, and they're struggling to get the damage in. They're struggling to stay alive, struggling to get those limbs as well.
Yeah, and you can see here as we take a look across the numbers coming in from this phase that their average damage is significantly down compared to what we see from them in Phase 1 as a whole. So again, I do think it just needs that one spark once again for this team to jolt out of this comatose state that they found themselves in, because when you look at Phase 1's results compared to this one, you'd be like, what is this? Where have they gone?
Yeah.
So, they do feel a little bit asleep at the moment.
Yeah, that's also kind of like a little bit of the suffering from success kind of scenario where you just like absolutely set the bar to the top and now everybody's like, okay, that's what we're expecting. So I think, again, go a little easy on them. But when we're looking at Doom, however, on the other side, it felt like last stage specifically, it wasn't just a struggle for them to get placement points. Getting a single elimination point in a lot of the games were very, very difficult. Towards the end of Stage 1, they've kind of ramped it up a little bit. They're now sitting, again, still towards the bottom of the board, but it still feels like Doom has made some improvements.
Sure, there's one or two things that are going their way here. However, in previous phases, they were my guilty pleasure. Now in this tournament, not so much a guilty pleasure.
Okay.
They need to definitely step up even more.
Yeah, they need to step up even more, but they also need a little bit more energy, so thank you for Monster Energy for making that possible. We're going to be heading into our next map. Oh, that's a survey. Make sure you fill out the survey, guys, as well, because we would like to know what you do and don't appreciate and what we can do to make sure that everybody's concerns are being addressed. We're going to go over to our casters, Blank and John, and as far as I'm aware, they don't have any chairs either anymore.
I don't think so, unless we don't. No, we're all fine. Blank, we're going into this next game. Looks like this phase is going to be a little bit different for
absolutely
for the time being, at least.
Yeah, it has been a lot of new teams stepping up, and I really like that. From phase to phase, you know, it feels like people have been doing their homework, they've been figuring out things in their own time, and like Juniro says, make sure to fill out that monster so you can let us know exactly what you think at home. But yeah, we're heading over towards Sanhok now. Sly is typically doing pretty well on this map. They keep putting up numbers here. There are a few other teams that are surprising, but I think one thing that's going on at the moment is that these teams are starting to realize that those elimination points are really carrying a lot of these teams towards the top side of the lobby. But that has created quite the hectic scenario here on Sanhok, at least Paris Resort being one of these unbelievably contested spots at the moment, where you have teams sat up in Tap Mock waiting to come in. You've got teams that drop here that move in. Even we're having bootcamp teams like make this rotation up towards Paris Resort later on and then hit it from there. Yeah, it is a sad man. No one likes this amount of fighting this early on. Gladiators back in, otherwise on that northwest side. Shockwave picking up Hatin. And again, we'll wait for this circle because right now we've been seeing a lot of new circles here on Sanhok. A lot of times we're seeing them down towards that southwest side, in which case teams have figured out exactly how they want to play that one out. And we've seen the regular few taking a lot of wins down there. Right, for Game Lord, stop it. I've decided I hate this. It needs to see. Oh, what? Never mind. I love it. I love it so much.
Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Everybody's losing numbers. You know what? I thought Game Lord weren't there because I was looking and I was like, oh, it's only brown dots. That's excuse me, right? But no, they are so hot dropped that they are one dot. They have become one of the same, Black.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they've just, you know, punched each other out. You know, this has been just a boxing ring. In the meantime, Unicorns of Love absolutely giving KONINA Power the worst time of their life.
It seems like horses and unicorns really don't get along here, Blank. It's far from paradise for either of these two stallions. Who's going to be able to ride across the hills of Sanhok for the match to come? Both teams, well, actually, Unicorns of Love actually getting all 4 players back up. 4 barrels pointed towards Bellucci. Turned away just at the wrong time. Might have been able to get a player on the drop down without DBS.
Yeah, you know, that worried me for a second there, man, because Unicorns of Love typically have this thing where a fight goes really, really well, and then they're so pleased it's gone super well, then they just make mistakes.
This is interesting as well. You've got Team Doom and Cave on the southwest side in Summy going at it as, excuse me, cleans up Game Lord, but at the cost of literally everyone else. Not good. Don't like it. Bad time. Cave on the southwest side. I was talking about Team Doom and Cave both going for a little bit of a hot drop. So we've had 3 hot drops here. And I feel like the plane path may have had something to do with it. For one of the very few times on Sanhok, this is one of them that can have an impact, a hard cut on that northern side.
Well, I mean, you say that, but at the same time, like, this is a hot drop right on the south. So I feel like these 2 teams could have gone anywhere else. Yeah. This is one of the hot drops, so it's like, oh, you've got a very south play, so we both drop here. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is a bit crazy, a bit weird. Either way, this is the Game Lord fight ensuing, where things started to go well, and then they went suddenly poorly again.
Kind of went poorly for everyone. Did Black just get a 1v... Was that a 1v3 or a 1v4? Not entirely sure, but Game Lord unhappy about that. I think they'd lost a player earlier already, so I think it was a 1v3.
Yeah, again, excuse me, a hot drop on practically all their maps, and I feel like they are speedrunning PMPL EU right now for the team with the lowest average survival time, with summer limbs at least. So
like golf, right? The aim of the game is to play the least amount.
I know we said there's an emphasis on eliminations, but you know, you still have to play out the rest of the game to try and find some more of those. I know placement points aren't quite what they used to be, but alongside placement points comes eliminations.
I mean, right now they're in 12th out of the 19, so as it stands, they would get in to the Vikendi at the end of the phase if we were to cut it off right now. Beating out Dark Project MUERTE as well. I mean, they talked about it on the desk, right? 14th place for MUERTE, currently being beaten by, excuse me, who hot drop on probably about 20% of their maps overall when you count the games where they're not playing against the people they hot drop.
Yeah, it's odd, man. It really is odd for excuse me, and they are so unwilling to give up their spots on the map. I respect it, you know, that they're going to keep doing it until people...
Think you do.
I don't respect it, but, you know, I can at least, you know, appreciate their determination to be like, look, this is our spot. We will just continue dropping here until you realize that it's just as a bad idea as we know it is, but we're not leaving.
I'm going to stay. I'm going to be real with you. I'm staying, right? That's this is what they're saying to the lobby. Circle pops out to the East Island, the mainland, with no VIRTUS.PRO as well. That area to the west of Quarry that's so highly prioritized by a lot of teams is going to be more available. I wonder where Team Doom and Cave's remnants are going to try and go out as well, because MADBULLS generally like to move south in a circle like this, cross south of Painan. They did cross north of it on the last Sanhok that we saw today, and Major Pride are there already and waiting, it seems.
Yeah, Major Pride gave up Painan quite early on that last Sanhok. Decided that they didn't want any of it. So this time around, they're gonna stick around. They're gonna stick around and maintain this position for now. See if they can catch anyone off guard as they try and move up through these bridges. It's one of the main crossing points. Most teams don't like crossing down towards Camp Charlie. Pretty easy position to hold out teams, especially if you're Sly Europe currently playing down towards Dockside.
Yeah, gonna still stay on that spread for the time being on Sly. Doom leaving Goldie a little bit further back. They have scrapped with Cave, and the moment the only casualty of this engagement has been Creepy. Phantom might be next up on the menu though. Does drop down, and Dimension whiffs the spray.
Yeah, Dimension is usually very accurate, so that was a bit out of character for him there. That was a pretty free spray on towards him, and he probably would have just kept wandering around there, so maybe communicate with the rest of the team to take those shots. But I think both these teams now firmly entrenched in warfare down towards on that south side. MADBULLS starting to make their move over towards the bridge. In the meantime, AAR coming up against another team here. Don't want to go down as early as they did in that last Sanhok. I think AAR do have potential, but right now with this Molotov going off, Tapok trying to hold on.
We'll be able to do so. Goodness me. I thought that last tick would get him, but I imagine they just extinguished in time. And the rest of ARR are rallied together to the cause. Elisio forwards, pretty close by, and we'll hear multiple footsteps now. Might take some shots back, and it's good. The off angle comes through from Avalanche, and they absolutely nail the shots onto Tapok. No backup for ARR there. In the meantime, MADBULLS, they did cross north of Painan, and Major Pride were ready for them.
Yeah, I mean, this was very easily set up by Major Pride. They still have to win out this fight, though. Even at 3, MADBULLS are dangerous, but Monkey taking down Tulika looks pretty good. Unfortunately, they do lose a player, and Effect gets knocked as well. This is not going well for either parties involved.
2 knocks over towards the MADBULLS. 1 knock and a flush already onto Major Pride. Looks like Flique once more. It's going well, but it's traded back and forth. Look at that, the elimination feed lighting up. And in the end, it's Major Pride to get eliminated. MADBULLS, they are alive, but they're only on 3 now with a flush sent out their way. They'll be able to keep hold of Painan as they have to shift a little bit further northeast and will contest with Gladiators in times to come. Cave, out the blue, still fighting it out with Team Doom.
Yeah, Dimension finally hits that shot up towards Phantom. MADBULLS, a difficult fight, but they're going to be clapping Flique on the back there because practically 1v5ing Major Pride there with his team forcing him on a rotation that was a little bit off kilter in my opinion. I think it's really... I think you take that rotation, I just don't think it's necessary. You know, you could move it towards Confluence Compound Cross there before Gladiators even get there, but moving across that bridge, you're almost certainly going to come into contact with Major Pride, and you're relying on your game sense and your mechanical skill to bring you through that one. And again, it's an unnecessary push. Luckily, what they have done by heading for that one is clear out that southwest. They can move up to Quarry quite happily, and Major Pride set out of the runnings, which they are not going to be happy about.
Dimension really being thorough on this, clearing the full building, even pre-firing the corner. Look at the nade thread through from Influence. That's going to be an easy flush there for him. And now, only the 1 player left standing on the upper floor. Dimension, he was so diligent on the previous building, but they've forgotten that there is an upper floor on this.
Yeah, needs to pull out the Roomba, get it to clear out all the corners. Zeus slowly ticking away though, and they're happy to wait.
Oh, okay. Influence doesn't get cut on the cross. Zeus now a sliver of HP around the side. The blue zone will do it if no one else does. And in fact, the point gets denied. Team Doom, however, will be eliminated. Very, very low for Cave, but they're playing as 3. Hopefully they have the meds to sustain their further pushes. Northern side as we swap diametrically across the map. Avalanche going at it with ARR still. It's looking like a lot of casualties on both sides. 1v1 right now as Becca, who's been a pretty decent power source for ARR, will be the one to continue. Knows they're behind the rock, has a nade cooking. Don't think they spot it. PNL just in time managed to find it, but a lot of damage found. Over to the tree, Elicio's done for. You can't go for it, and it's definitely a full 1v1 here. Elementrix still not out of it just yet. PNL repositions, but that nade's close by, but not quite enough to get the final blow. He needs to commit to a heal, or maybe he's waiting for the peak. Another nade over the top, and it's short, unfortunately. But there's one more in the pocket. This is the last chance for Becker on the nade. PNL is healing, lobs it good and long this time, and it's only going to take that damage. A fraction of a second earlier, it would have been good, but PNL weathers the storm. So many nades invested, and no reward for it.
Yeah, I think at some point there, at least after the second grenade, you had to go for a play. Move out. I don't think the DBS was maybe the best idea. I think a lot of people are overestimating just how good that weapon is. Elementrix doing Elementrix stuff there, and the rest of the team is not able to capitalize. Look at this, though. So unfortunate. He does so much for the team. Becker has to clean up, make some decent plays, but nothing more. They are going to be pretty upset with how that one went down. Unicorns of Love have just remained over in Paris Resort. Really done nothing more than sit in this building. Shockwave, though, do take a knock. So Unicorns of Love will hold on to this position as long as possible. Do I do it?
Sly Europe might be able to push up a little bit. Gladiators swinging around. Moving through as Sharks on the hills to the southwest side, close to MADBULLS remnants now. There's 3 players for the MADBULLS, I think, after their scrap with Major Pride. They will have to push through, but we know how efficient Gladiators can be on their gameplay. So pushing on this southwest side, if they can just push the MADBULLS across the quarry, make it Sly's problem.
Yeah, I think for a lot of times, Gladiators, sure, they lose players here and there, but they're always invested in the end game, the long game. They want to get towards finals with as many points as possible. And I think they're one of the few teams that has actually been able to continue putting up a high scoring throughout both phases and hasn't really fallen off all that much. Once they found their groove, found their mojo, they're unwilling to put it back in the genie bottle.
Yeah, them and Major Pride. Gladiators and Major Pride, the 2 teams that have kept up their pace between the 2 phases so far, after the first 2 days of this phase. Remember, it is still relatively early in this phase, and things very much can change, especially when you throw a 4-day break into the mix.
Yeah, that really has been the major tell of which teams are really putting in the work behind the scenes. You know, some teams have really developed a lot over those 4 days. And again, we were saying that last week was almost like a boot camp, almost, you know. You play in those 6 days, it's rough, it's tough, but, you know, you either sink or you swim in those scenarios. Some teams sunk and then found that they could use some life bands over in the old 4-day break and have just get themselves back up towards the top of the water where they can start to breathe, learn to swim just a little bit in this monstrous lobby.
Some teams have, in fact, managed to strap on the snorkel and thought, you know what if we used our arms and legs to swim? And
exactly.
Done a lot better this phase around. I mean, it's Sly Europe as well, jumping up from 10th place at the end of last phase into a strong first at the end of day 2 here. That's really, really solid to see that sort of improvement.
Yeah, I think for Sly Europe as well, it's more than just like a case of, you know, they've figured out some tempo, they've worked on their gun skill, they've worked on their teamwork. They are trying to implement some very advanced strategies, you know, taking a long time to set up their end game. If they have 4 players, taking a lot of off angles, dangerously pushing teams out into the open, even going for the sacrifice the pawn play, which I am really enjoying. You know, they're playing very, very well. As Clara said, yeah, I am convinced by Sly at this point in time. I feel like they've got a lot of confidence. I may just go for a triple Sly prediction on the day. I'm not sure.
We haven't quite had to lock them in yet, so potentially. Let's take a look at this circle as it pops. Goes up north towards Shockwave's compound. Up there, Unicorns of Love, who have been fighting as well. I think they're diminished. No, they are all on 4. So they have got that northern side. Gladiators have spread out strong on that western edge. Dagestan as well, with a nice little slice here. And Sly might be curtailed, but it's VIRTUS.PRO slap bang in the middle.
Again, I'm not a fan of VIRTUS.PRO slap bang in the middle, mate. I'll tell you that now.
It's not gone well.
It's not gone well in the past. But, you know, things can change, but I don't believe in them.
That's fair. That is fair. VIRTUS.PRO currently operating with all 4 players alive. Have got some noisy neighbors, but Avalanche are going to be backed off single. Shoes him away from the door, stands in it. A looming presence, and PNL is backed off.
Right, then whilst I do this segment, you can get your prediction in, lad. Whilst we wait for this to continue. VIRTUS.PRO in the middle. MADBULLS down towards that south side, trying to push straight past Sly Europe. Fleeke, I think, in one of the vehicles with them, sends to the side of VIRTUS.PRO, opt to share this compound. It's actually a pretty bold move from them as well. I like this a lot.
Nades can definitely be traded back and forth between MADBULLS and VIRTUS.PRO. MADBULLS have that resupply that they were able to get off Major Pride, who they took down earlier. Gladiator is playing a 3-1 split right now. Yeah, they definitely, okay. They know there's a player here. Mekus all the way up to the north, waiting for these snakes. Kitsune managed to pick up that elimination, and Cave will go down. They stayed out in the blue for far too long and kind of went down to it. They just didn't have the meds to sustain after investing them in the engagement that they were involved with earlier.
Yeah. Gladiators really amuse me as a team because they're probably one of the most successful paranoid teams I've ever seen. They are so worried about getting caught up by some player in the back. I do really love to see it. You going for Gladiators? Respect it. You're the Gladiators fan. You're a Gladiators fanboy. 100%.
I really am. I really am today. 3 predictions. So far, they've let me down once.
You had 2 yesterday.
I did. I can't. You know what? I like them. You know.
You really do. You had 3 on the last day of phase 2. Oh my god, you really love this team now. Let's think about it.
I just like the team. What can I say?
Fair play, fair play. You trust in them, and hopefully that John trust will break through and give them the ability they need to survive. Black actually makes it in to the circle.
They know he's there as well. That's the thing, Mecca. You could see him. He's so aware of this.
He's evil. He's really evil.
Oh, it's a compound finish.
I think Kalara is actually predicting to MADBULLS. It was a bold move from them to send towards this compound, but it could work out, actually. You know, I actually like the prediction on that.
The 3-player prediction special. It's something that you have finessed yesterday.
I mean, you know, it doesn't always mean that you lose a game just because you got 3 players, you know?
Exactly. That's what you did yes.
Especially when you got a compound like this, you don't need to have all the angles covered. It just helps when you get crashed upon. And I think with VIRTUS.PRO also being here, you have a little bit more room to work with, particularly because VIRTUS.PRO acts as almost like that bodyguard, right? That's the big thing. Shockwave up towards the northwest side. We'll have to get a groove on at some point. Gladiators still on that paranoia game, waiting for Black to show his face.
Oh, Beast. Oh, no, Limbo Boom. Just a fraction of a second off there on the timing for Beast to peek out from that door frame to be visible. Black is still there, and I wonder if Gladiators... No, they don't. Matic takes a knock. Meku and Tixi immediately responding here. They know they cannot afford to lose this player. They're even suppressing the sides of this rock. They know that they can't let Black peek out, and they will be able to... Actually, no, hang on a minute. It's Trazen. Saves the life of a Gladiator there. Matic can crawl out and around, but the blue zone is pushing. I think they're going to need to maybe even carry him and run on in.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of curious that the Shockwave didn't actually take any more shots up towards Gladiators, considering that they were out in the open, but I think Shockwave may have just had that side swipe onto them. Unicorns of Love trying to push in, Dagestan making a good move, but Shockwave sending directly over towards this area, and Unicorns of Love have a different team to deal with now as Dagestan starts to slowly move forward. Keep does get knocked, though, in the process.
Unicorns of Love continue to move through. Shockwave take nade damage from Mihi. 2 knocks as he breaks out that side swipe. Unicorns of Love starting to turn up the heat now here on Sanhok. Mihi with more nades in hand. As Dagestan are struggling, sure, the forward position has gone down. Swave is there, but there is still an answer, and Zero turns it up as well. Huge shift up to the northern side now, as this is going all-out warfare. Swave, Rezable, Dagestan flagging.
Finally, Unicorns of Love get something good done. Shifu still sending nades over the top, looking to 1v4 over towards Sly Europe. I don't think that's going to go too well for you, pal.
See? He's going straight on in, hops out, does get knocked almost immediately, and Meku wants to get this confirmed, but no, they lose Tixi on a little bit too far forward crash. They just don't know the positions here. Kitsune has a side angle from the MADBULLS to worry about as well. Trazen trying to keep the teammate up. Meku around the side, knows there's a player pre-firing the corner, goes down though, and Gladiators just coming apart at the seams. This is another wild crash that we've seen from them far too often for my liking. Trazen He's going to get burnt away by that Molotov, though, and that is going to be difficult to deal with. Forced out, no, not going to spread. Kitsune with the backstop. Matic around the tree. Won't be able to get a lot of damage, but there is a volley answering time and time again. Kitsune, where are you? He needs your help.
Oh my God,
goes down, and he's still going. How on earth is Tracer alive here? Kitsune, you need to turn up, but it's just not happening. Right up into the rock, a nade in hand, and that is going to be too much, but Unicorns are here.
Looking down towards Kitsune, last alive, Matic bleeding out at a rapid pace as well. Unlikely Kitsune is going to be able to get him back up again, and Unicorns of Love are actually getting a good spread on this northeast side, looking to make their way in. Unlikely faces here towards the end of the game. MADBULLS, though, still going strong. And you know what? Again, I said I like that pick from Kalaris. I think he's outsmarted all of us here.
AB, Dagestan are done for. So you and Janiro, not happy about your predictions here, but mine is very much tentative right now as Gladiators cower behind the rock. Nades can roll down, but Unicorns probably have used quite a lot of their utility. I mean, sure, there's a lot of resupplies up there, but there's only so much you want to be carrying in. And I wonder how much they want to invest here when they know the crashes that matter are still to come. Look, Zero, dry as a bone on this, but has to push in. Similarly, Dry Beast has gone down, and Matic and Kitsune playing up close. One knock on the close range. The Molotov is there to burn them out, and the swing out is not good. Zero falls, and look at the play coming through from Matic. Not going to be able to hold out against Mehi, but the blue zone envelops. Gladiators fall, but Unicorns also will struggle to move further.
They're such an insane team. They're an insane team. And I don't mean that in the good way. Some of their plays just make absolutely no sense. Then sometimes I'll see Unicorns of Love do things that mystify me in a good way. So, you know, we've got one thing in a bad way that shouldn't, and one thing in a good way that should. It's just really, really strange to me. So I hope Unicorns of Love can continue some of these interesting plays that work out and stop these crazy plays that just make no sense. Gladiators were going to be forced in at some point. You had a 4-player squad. You had a real chance at that chicken dinner. And now you've thrown it all away. VIRTUS.PRO, though, with 4 players, huddling in the shack. Come on, guys.
Mandarin definitely doesn't know there's a player here. There's 2 players from Sly on this hillside. PNL, he's going to have to take... He's right next to him. He's literally there.
Hello.
Reflect, how on earth did you not see him? What is going on? PNL should be dead right now, but he is not. And Sly dropped the ball in a massive way. VIRTUS.PRO trying to move out, and a duo from MADBULLS. They're right on the edge of the circle, but VIRTUS.PRO struggle. PNL from up top. I mean, give him the chicken dinner at this stage. He deserves it for that.
Man, someone got on a landline to Sly because they obviously did not see that one coming. Again, VIRTUS.PRO, I don't know what more to say. It's just mad plays time and time again. MADBULLS realised they had to move out, and for good reason. This position that currently VIRTUS.PRO are trying to leave from is so uncovered coming out from the blue, and VIRTUS.PRO is struggling because of it. They're a 4-player squad. Why are they acting as if they're a 1-player team right now?
Well, hang on a minute. Okay, well, okay. The knock from Tulika is good, but MADBULLS are going to have to cross this road to get towards the centre. Frozen is there, but he's burning away. Folly in purple, trying to invest the rest. Tulika goes through the fire. That's disaster for MADBULLS, and now it's a 3 versus 1. The res can go. Folly has to break out, and maybe this knock is going to be good, but Frozen has to win the challenge. Will be able to do so. Vector in close range. Needs to stand up. Purple going so low. There's a chance. The reload's good for 1. Purple now hits the deck. Wants to heal, but the spray is good, and MADBULLS right out with 2, and will be able to take VIRTUS.PRO down. What a way to close down that Sanhok.
A real deserved win right there. MADBULLS made some incredibly dangerous decisions and just showed why they play the way they do, right? Because they are so confident in their ability to win these games. And a lot of times, this team is just primal power. There's teams in this lobby which are a lot more intellect goes into it to getting those wins, but for the guys from MADBULLS, it is caveman-like at times. You know, they just have strength behind their blows. And not to say they aren't tactical in a way, because like leaving that building, getting to that position, and they were setting themselves for the long game versus VIRTUS.PRO. They were the team that they were most concerned about. And as you leave that building, you come out to where you saw them at, which is literally just a slope and a tree. That's all you have available. So for VIRTUS.PRO, there's practically no cover, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel for MADBULLS. Obviously, that Molotov did kind of slow things down just a little bit, but I don't think VIRTUS.PRO deserve to win that game at the end of the day. Anyway, I'm very happy that MADBULLS are able to clutch it out.
Yeah, and we said we wanted to see more from the MADBULLS. They do get some points on board.
Yeah.
And again, it was a well-marshaled, well-thought-out, and executed strategy. So congratulations to the MADBULLS for a chicken dinner on Sanhok.
MADBULLS get themselves that chicken dinner. I mean, nothing new after what we've seen from them on stage 1, but still an incredible performance nonetheless. I'm Jeannie, your host, joined by Kalaris. And I mean, Kalaris, we're immediately going to have a look at these stats.
Yeah, a team that we could only imagine should be getting more wins here to start off the phase, and now is able to actually get one properly converted. And they made a very important move in this game, which for me, I always talk about these mad dashes to try and get yourself to a middle location if you're maybe one player down, or even if you're 4 players, it doesn't really matter. The point is that the send that they make to get to that left side of the compound where VIRTUS.PRO is, it's a potentially game-winning move. Sure, you might arrive and you might get gunned down and might get destroyed. However, the fact that they are so far out of a central location on Sanhok, and then to be able to make that send is imperative if you want any hopes of being able to win a game like this. So for MADBULLS, that move alone was a winning play to get them the win eventually.
Absolutely. Strategy coming down to a T, and a great execution from MADBULLS as well. But also make sure that you guys follow us on the socials if you want to know, because that would be a great execution of any plan you have, because thanks to the socials, there is going to be the possibility to enter the giveaway, because we are giving away a couple of skins. Make sure that you leave your DMs open so that Max can actually reach out to you and let you know if you have won a skin. Oh no,
Max?
We're getting some new... Yeah.
100,000 UC you're giving away if you DM Max, man, on Twitter.
Woo!
Wow, okay.
Wow, Max. That's very kind. That's really, really nice. I mean, it's not Christmas yet. It is April's Fool. So, Max, you're going to have to tweet about that one if you want to make sure to confirm it or not. But thank you, Max, for being so kind to the community. Well, looking at the matches that we've just had, Kalaris, we already had 4 out of 5. It went by so fast, but this one specifically... I mean, MADBULLS on top, and the thing that I really want to highlight here is Unicorns of Love and Avalanche have managed to get themselves placement points and 11 elims for UL.
Yes, that is true. Okay, where do we begin? PNL, obviously, for Avalanche, really putting in a lot of work towards the end. In fact, a double dink with the DBS. I'm all about that. Yes, please. More of that, please. But Unicorns of Love, there was once a lifetime where this organization was actually very good at Sanhok, and even this a lot of these players in a previous iteration way back when they were Destiny or Big were also very good on Sanhok. They really didn't gain traction just yet in this season. However, this is a step in the right direction. You then get kind of caught on the edge and then go down overall, but this is decent points. I would like to see more of it, please.
It's a good start. And you know what's going to be an even crazier start? For the first time here at PMPL EU, we're going to be comparing MADBULLS to Unicorns of Love, because Unicorns of Love are the second team. And Unicorns of Love not only did more damage, they had more limbs and more assists.
Yeah, I mean, they were sweeping the edge of the circle north and then kind of northeast very, very well from where they were coming in from. And I think for a lot of the teams that they were going up against, the interesting thing is that if you are still 4 alive on Sanhok, the chances are, coming into some of those final circles, you're going up against a lot of wounded teams. That is the nature of Sanhok. You're occasionally losing one person here, one person there to be Snakes or something like that. But to start things off, Gennaro, there was so much hot dropping. Bootcamp and Paradise Resort, these fights, they hurt both teams in both scenarios.
I mean, hot dropping is like Max's favorite thing too, and he always says that he loves seeing it. He absolutely does. But also one thing that I want to bring up when it comes to Sanhok specifically is that we said the way that SHOCKWAVE executed the first Sanhok that we saw of the day was very, very good in terms of their rotations, in terms of staying within the circle, sweeping around the sides. But this time around, SHOCKWAVE didn't really find that same success.
Yeah, getting caught out in some of these spots as well, as you saw DBS taking them out eventually from Kitsune. And actually now we're looking at more DBS. It's just the greatest gun in the game. I love it. But yeah, for SHOCKWAVE, I mean, it's petered off a little bit, but I think they can probably even rest on their laurels of the fact that they got 30 points in one game. Like, that bumps up their averages for today, I suppose, even though there is still quite a bit of work to do. And that final moment, by the way, for MADBULLS to be able to get that was a vector to finish things off against VIRTUS.PRO, who were very bottled up, so gotta love that as well.
Gotta love it indeed, but also gotta love the fact that, again, it's been a little bit more of a rotation in terms of the teams that are finishing on the top. We've said it like earlier today, it was a lot of Major Pride, we saw Shockwave, Sly, Dagestan, but now it's MADBULLS, Avalanche, Unicorns of Love. Who would have thought? Not me.
Yeah, it's been quite a change. I mean, you say not you, but you're going through Dagestan predictions quite a bit here.
Yeah, listen, I was a Dagestan fan at the European Cup, and especially a Shifu fan. I mean, the guy got MVP of the tournament for a reason. But looking at the map performances, however, on the next map, which is going to be Erangel, Gladiators are looking good. MADBULLS are looking good. Sanhok, everybody's looking good.
Yeah, this, I mean, we brought it up on the previous Erangel, right? Like, who do I think is kind of the kings of Erangel? And it definitely is MADBULLS and the way that they're able to perform things. This will give them a tip in the right direction to start off Sanhok just before an Erangel, unless they're not in this game. Now that I say that, I always get caught by this. No, they should be in this game because they were in Group B. So we'll see how it goes. But you look at the other names that are there present and they're strong in Erangel. You got the two French teams, Gamelord and Shockwave, have also shown great performances on Erangel. So I'm hoping that, you know, the French can continue on Max Man's revolution.
Yeah, Max is really happy about that. He's like cheering for you guys, which is really sweet and very cute. But we're now also going to have a look at the overall standings because we're going to see how last game has impacted everything. Sly, you're still on the top, 79 points in the bag, 66 for Gladiators. MADBULLS slowly making their way up. But this is a very different look from last week, and I am absolutely here for it.
Yeah, considering as well for MADBULLS, obviously they were usually seizing the top spot. It has been slower this phase, right? But the fact that they get these 20 points on the board bumps them up very nicely. And no one team in particular was really sponging massive amounts of points up over these 2 days. Even though Slice's on 79, everything else has been spread out relatively evenly. So for MADBULLS, just that one extra pump up has been able to move them up nicely.
Yeah, and when we're looking at the bottom of the table, I mean, Unicorns of Love getting those points on the board, absolutely very important, just to, you know, further push themselves up the ranking. Again, there is going to be Vikendi at the end of this stage, and we saw what MUERTE was able to do in terms of securing themselves 12 points on there. So it's not really something to kind of like, you know, sniff your nose at. Definitely gonna have to be in that contention for Vikendi at the end of the stage, but we're not gonna be in contention of the next map, and we have John and Blank to walk us through it.
Thank you very much. We're going to be getting into another helping of Erangel for the last map of the day. John, with me, Blank. We're going to be having a great time here. Sly Europe have laid down the gauntlet for first place, 79 points. Gladiators, they need 13 to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult for some of these other teams to kind of catch up if they're towards the bottom end, because it has been a real vacuum at the top, sucking up all the points at the moment. It's been nice to see some of the names really staying true towards the top side of that lobby. Obviously, MUERTE being one of the ones that has really fallen off recently. I still think they're a good team. I just think that some of these decisions they're making are more akin to the fact that they think they're a real big dog in the lobby. And again, everyone here is very, very tough. So you still need to be making these tactical decisions. You can't just pull a Mad Bull and go full Super Saiyan at the end of the game, as you just mentioned, John, off screen. But yeah, so I think that looking at some of these teams at the moment, I'd like to see Gladiators breaching towards that top spot, considering they had a rough time at the start of phase 1. I think they've really brought this in and had like quite a unique play style in this game, John.
Yeah, you called them paranoid in that last game, and I think that it's kind of true, right? They definitely like to stay on the back foot, scout out their back angles, and in a sense, it's not a bad thing at all, right? It's seen them relatively safe, right? They're one of the teams that kind of just doesn't get backstabbed all that much. In most scenarios, they're keeping an eye out. This is an interesting cut. I imagine it might be, speaking of the Gladiators, the backup drop onto Ferry Pier here for them, but they might have contest, especially with the kilter of this plane path.
Yeah, we might see Dark Project head down towards Primos side and Gladiators in fact Ferry Pier, but we'll see how that actually happens and goes forward. But yeah, this really does cut off a lot of this area towards the top side of the map, towards Georgia Pole. This is going to be a little bit more rough to get to. Obviously, there is a pretty easy rotational path up this side, so you might see teams actually opt to head up there in the first place, just because they know it's probably going to be clear. There's vehicles along the way to pick up, but I don't think this is going to pose too many teams, too many problems. Major Pride obviously heading down towards Nova Rep Noia. But yeah, I'd like to see a good game out of MUERTE. Just one good game at that halfway point of the weekend.
Ooh, okay, that western rotation you were talking about just got a whole lot more valuable, Blank. I mean, Georgia-Pol right now, prime real estate, a hard west circle is on the cards here, with Gatka still in there. It's going to be pretty tricky for a lot of these teams who have dropped out on that eastern edge.
Yeah, a massive amount of water as well still in this one. AR Esports losing a player, trying to get up towards Gatka. A lot of times they're able to comfortably get in there, but we know there's a big roadblock just underneath the side of Potato Hill. KONINA Power actually going head-to-head versus Dark Project. I said that the Dark Project would be dropping here, and KONINA Power usually are hot on the heels of Dark Project a lot of time wherever they are dropping. So KONINA Power does get the jump on them.
But on the flip side, Dark Project able to take down one of the KONINA Power players. As they did split drop. Both these teams did the same split drop. Instead, Dark Project moved 2 out towards where there was 1 from KONINA Power, and I think there were 3 from KONINA Power over towards there were 2 from Dark Project. So the numbers advantage won out in both scenarios. Unfortunately, though, they both lose a player, so it's the same result either way.
Yeah, and with Dark Project being locked into the south side of Primorsk, you know, you'd expect a regroup now from Dark Project, and I'd kind of expect a bit more of a push coming through from KONINA Power. Perhaps they're looting up a little bit more, but they know that players will be regrouping with the rest of their team very soon, and if they can take advantage of this 3v2 now, it'll make the rest of their game much easier, as they'll clear out a lot of space down towards this south side. Right now, Shockwave rotating through the river itself. Okay, head up towards North George. Could work.
You know there's going to be a lot of competition for vehicles around your drops. You just grab a boat and you get down towards George. I mean, I like it. I can't really fault it. You know that Northern Shore is going to be very dry as well in terms of the players because of the way the plane path fell. So that western edge, a lot safer.
Yeah.
Go off, I guess.
You're getting out into a location, like you say, that is just unpopulated. There aren't many people taking shots at you. You take this rotation. You don't have a vehicle right now, but this was comfortably sits 4. And then you can pick up some vehicles that you know a lot of teams will not have already got, because this is probably one of the fastest rotations you can make in the boat.
Yeah, it's just straight cut through the middle. And no one's looking for it as well. I don't really think we see this happen too much, but it's a very unique scenario.
Yeah, this is one of the few times I've actually ever seen this rotation before, but yeah, it gives you complete freedom. You cut straight through. None of this business of having to cross bridges, of having to maintain the vehicle's actual stability as you cross over these ridges. It's easy and quite relaxing, I imagine, for Shockwave at the start of the game. They've had a pretty decent day today, John, and I'd like to see Shockwave continue that type of thing. Been making some pretty good entries so far, and we're heading up towards the top side of Erangel, which is a map that they really did need to improve on. They had some solid success in phase 1, which quickly dropped off, and I think as one of the maps which is one of the fairer ones to hit up, if you could start finding more and more success over on Erangel, you're bound to jump up in the rankings.
Unicorns of Love with Avalanche bearing down upon them. 4 players to hold, and it's just Beast on the inside. There is a drop out on the outside for one of the other Unicorns of Love players there, and you can see they are a little bit split. So if Avalanche crash one of these, it's bad news. But they sail on past. Don't really want to stop off here, and why would you? It's not in the next circle. Looks like they want to head north of the river to make their rotation in and potentially try and push in past Shockwave.
Could make something like that happen. I mean, again, Shockwave is going to be pretty careful on this one. I didn't like what Shockwave did on the last Erangel, which was covering their bases but covering them loosely before they regrouped. Obviously that worked out for them because they were quite quick to rotate in a cluster down towards the south side and capitalizing on the top of all the chaos going around the map. Not an easy rotate for them by any means, but still getting something good done. Gladiators down towards, I think he thinks it's some kind of trebuchet that's going to send him towards the north side of the map, but just about gets that bad boy off there. Gladiators
down, stunt it, you know.
Exactly, dude. Parkour on the vehicles. Gladiators down towards Ferry Pier. I know you love that position, John. If you don't predict them now, I'll be very disappointed.
Wait, who am I predicting?
Gladiators.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Ferry Pier play. Yeah, for sure.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a massive buff.
It really is. It's like they get some kind of boon from this position. I don't know why.
Just 2 good. 3 good, in fact. On Ferry Pier, though. They might have to hold off against Cave, who are making their rotation. See if they can stunt it. or if it will be stunted by Gladiators on the far side. You can see they are dropping off short. Okay, Dimension knows there's some sort of something going on, or maybe it's just scouting it out. I don't know if Kitsune has a vehicle drawn up there. Tixi moving off in the distance. It's just Kitsune here, which means it's difficult. Drops out the spike trap. Okay, that's fair. The Stinger across the road. I wonder if Cave will spot this. I think they might do. Yeah, look at this. Dimension folds back. Are they going to just go all the way to the Eastern Bridge and play a really long game? Because if they do, they might have trouble with Nexus and Major Pride.
Yeah, I think that you could...
That's fair.
It's going to be real difficult, right? So, actually heading through that bridge is going to be nasty. And I think if you do make this... Oh, there's a lot of vehicle carnage going on for Cave's side at the moment. I think this vehicle's actually a bit problematic more than anything. Now you take a quick inspect, pull up the hood, check what's going on in there. But yeah, if they make that rotation over towards the eastern side, I think they can wait out comfortably a little while. I think Nexus is not going to sit in the blue all day long. They know they need to get a move on. So just by the way these rotations will have to come out from some of these eastern teams, I think Cave is hoping that, yes, they'll be in the blue longer than most, but at least they're not going to get absolutely torn to bits on their rotate across the bridge.
Trazen took a lot of damage there. They think he's by this wall, but Alicia gets the wrong end of it, unfortunately for them. Tati looking out those windows, and Trazen's feeding this information back. Knows there's players on these windows, and Shockwave, remember, they rotated in very, very early. Avalanche have come in a little bit later on to North George. Teams are starting to flow on through. Cave are going for a late rotate. Okay, so look at Cave on that south side blank. They have actually opted to go on that west bridge.
Yeah, hoping that Gladiators will win. I think they heard some fighting going on between Nexus and Major Pride and decided, you know what, we'll just take the L on that side, especially with this circle. You'd imagine that anyone that's holding on the West Bridge would be more concerned at this point in time with getting in towards a nice spot within the circle itself. Major Pride still zooming around, to get something done, but Nexus currently so far have a real chokehold on this position.
Trazen finally gets knocked on the north side in the meantime. Shockwave isolate 3 back down to the south shore of Georgia Pool. They will all have to move south, so no point fighting for that north. Effect, very difficult to res here, but Nexus just maybe keeping themselves out in the blue for too long. They have so much ground to cover right now, and you've already taken down 1 from Major Pride, gotten a knock. You know that they're going to be really far behind. Not too sure what's going on here. Have they just sacked off 2 vehicles in a row? Okay, no, there we go. But Creepy needs a correction there, just rolls it over. Uh-oh, okay. We're sorted. It's okay, don't worry. Everyone's on the road.
You know what happened, I think the buggy was trapped in the floor.
Oh,
that
yeah.
would make the most sense to me, and that's why they had to ram it with the dash. You had to go back and find somewhere else to get out of the ground. Quick thinking, to say the least. Gladiators heading down towards the south side of Quarry at the moment. Exo Machina tries to take some shots. I think Major Pride pretty much done at this point. But you know who this does benefit? Is MUERTE, more than anyone. So many times MUERTE has had to deal with this Nexus rotate that just happens so close to them. It's practically the same rotation they both make. So with Nexus still down here, MUERTE's actually had free reign, and it's forced them to tunnel vision, not on Nexus, but tunnel vision on winning the game. And I'm okay with that.
That's what you want to see from MUERTE. They topped the tables last week, but now they are sat in a measly 15th place overall after almost 2 days of play.
It ain't good.
That's understating it. VIRTUS.PRO with a challenge, and Shockwave. Trazen did go down, remember, from that North George engagement. Because Off-Haze wants to put bullets through the window and do the dirty, but Purple down first, and Aza does not go down, neither does SnowX. They get that knock onto Off-Haze, and Purple falls as well. Really good hold here for Shockwave against VIRTUS.PRO, who have been lacking luster in this phase so far. Can they keep themselves going? There's 3 players facing them down. Off-Haze flushed out.
Yeah, VIRTUS.PRO just play scared. They don't play as a unit either. They're not happy to just send in as a full squad. I think that there's some miscommunication going on there. I can't say for sure, but it doesn't feel like they're all lined up on the same page. A lot of times reading different lines at this point. So I think that VIRTUS.PRO need to figure something out, or at least have one decision maker and then just commit to that decision. As long as that decision isn't just, all right, guys, let's just stay put. For how long? Don't you worry about that.
All game, no move. Terminus does get knocked. You can see on that minimap on the top right that Major Pride are being allowed across the bridge finally by Nexus, who realize, okay, yeah, we should probably get going now. The circle shifts out hard east on this, keeps just a bit of Gatka in there as well. Not quite the chopsticks, that was already out in the blue. But a hard shift back to the mainland means that there's all land to play.
I think that right now, most teams a bit worried about this finish. It's a nasty place to end up at the end of the day, right? It's just all field. Well, I don't even know what happened there.
End of the day. Though.
End of the today.
Yes.
Yes, not good. Neither of the circle. Horrible place to be in. new film, yeah, I like it.
Edge of the Day After Tomorrow, starring Tom.
In the beginning. Gatka fields directly in this one. It's practically all fielded area, a bit of the marshlands in it over on that western side. So everywhere around here is not typically what you'd be used to be playing over on Erangel. It is very akin to Sanhok in terms of it being quite open, but in the same way on Sanhok, you do have a lot of these trees, a lot of this hard cover to play around with. Not so much here on this circle in the map. It is going to be awkward. There's going to be one team that finds a particular compound and is hugely happy from that position. In this case, it's KASIK team.
Yeah, on that south side of this next circle, they've got that cover that you can see they're operating from. The open land around them makes this so hard to crash as well. Fortunately for a lot of the other teams, it would take a hard shift to center up on them. Not that we haven't seen that today, of course, is very difficult to make work.
At the very least, from this spot though, going forward, the next circle shift, I don't think it's going to be too drastic. They can solidify a position around this south side, try and get rid of as many teams as possible. Unicorns of Love though, moving to deal with Avalanche. Only 3 players for the Unicorns of Love.
Tati cooking the nade on the outside. 2 players out the back. Miki could feel the brunt of that one. Damage found, but not a full knock there. Half a health bar. And a nade to answer. Drops into the vehicle. Nade over the long top there for 0, but doesn't quite connect with that one either. He is inside and didn't manage to get that through. Another nade around the back. Tati is just suppressing. Out of nades finally, however. The Unicorns might be able to push in on this northern side. You can't wait too long because the zone does start to hurt and Nox cannot be gotten up in stage 4. Miki going down is pretty much spelling doom for him right now. As they try and roll in, Tati gets curtailed on the inside. You need this res now. You need to commit for it if you want to have a chance at staying alive as 4. And Avalanche just suppressing this line. Both of them know how important these reses are.
Yeah, they've got very minimal time to make this one work. I think for Avalanche, this is too late for them. They already sent players out. Beast has to heal himself up nice and quick. Circle out towards the eastern side.
I don't think he has the heal. I think he goes down, and that is going to be a confirmed knockout in the circle. It's going to fall. That is so unfortunate. Needed the bandage first.
Game Lord actually have a good position to play from here. There's a real good compound towards the center that they can move from. They're leaving players behind though. I think this is maybe a bit overzealous. Certainly they can get Robs as well as Victor towards a really strong spot in the circle and play from there. MUERTE is hopping around, but I think they're going to try and stop these players coming in from that northwest side. Now Valo scoured it out, and now Akashi, now Valo can both go for this.
KONINA Power, MADBULLS, Dark Project all embroiled on the western edge. Clique. MADBULLS scoping out low. Bellucci spotted by Dark Project, but they just want to get out of here right now. Just do not want any part of this engagement. Bellucci on that far ridge side, they'll hop out and get a swift drive-by, hop straight back in. Fash is ahead of them on this rotation, and the MADBULLS opt to change direction, go the opposite from this one. Already one knock from Fash on KONINA Power. Needs to be careful of the vehicle going up, but it looks fairly healthy right now. Latte moves out and a nade over towards Fash over the top. Wants to get this one done. That is right around the edge of the car. Is it going to go off?
Running into it.
There it is. He runs away from the other one. Does manage to avoid a lot of the damage from those 2 nades. Fortunately, there's another one to go off and Wait will get rezzed. However, the blue zone is right there. This res needs to happen and they need to move fast.
Yeah, I mean, that is a death timer coming towards you. Just about gets it, picks up the first aid kit and has to get running. Latte's going to try and get a resupply here. MADBULLS moving through the fields. Gladiators spot them, and they're right behind KASIK, but these nades are going to prove deadly.
MUERTE have regrouped, 3 in the center of the Gatka fields. Milky Way still on the hills to the southwest. MADBULLS behind KASIK on the queue right now with Gladiators and Cave to their sides. The MADBULLS are kind of cornered now, really nowhere to go. And you're on this ridge side where KASIK can just continue to stymie you. It's a tough situation to say the least. Milky Way in danger for MUERTE.
Yeah, just providing scouting potential. He's right underneath the ridge side there, so he should be okay for the time being. Gladiators moving forward, but spotted out by KASIK team.
That's no backup there for Matic. This is a backstop position. You see Meku on the vehicle, immediately wants to pick his teammate up. This zone is closing. And Gladiators have the only position right now in this next zone of those teams on that southwest side. MADBULLS are still going, but it will continue to shrink as teams get pushed on towards. MADBULLS with 4, doing very, very well in this engagement, shunting KASIK team out of the compound as Unicorn, that thorn in the side of the Gladiators rotation, gets dealt with, plucked from the flesh. As Tixi lights up towards Frozen on the wall, there's no cover. And that should be a spray down here. Tuluka also being felled. Zebeku allows Matic up and into the zone towards a building to stay safe and get healing.
Yeah, MADBULLS pretty much donezo now. Zerich has to make a desperate run in, but Kitsune's got his number. And he calls him up real quick to let him know that he's done for the day. MUERTE find themselves a nice compound towards the center, and I do like what they're doing here. Going back to MUERTE basics, which is a really big split, but they're gathering as much intel as possible going forward, John.
That is a south shift towards the hills, which will afford a lot of power. If Milky Way can hold on to it, then MUERTE might regroup across that way, but you imagine right now, they just need to figure out where they're going to go and choose one of them, because they are in about 4 places at this stage.
Yeah, honestly, this position they currently hold towards this compound on the eastern side is good, but it's right on the edge. So it's not exactly like this is going to be the game-winning position, but what it does do is keeps them out of danger for a long time. Monkey versus practically the entirety of the squad coming through from NEXUS. A nice nade over the top, just needed a little tickle, and he was done.
NEXUS have a casualty to deal with, to pick up. The zone will start to close down on them, as they do have to make their way through towards MUERTE and GameLord, who are just a little bit in the way.
GameLord still have this position where they control a lot of area in terms of sightlines, which is always nice to see, but Gladiators have high ground, a ridge to play around with. They can take a lot of shots at a lot of different teams, soften them up a bit before they move in.
Out of range of distance as well. Very hard to answer shots out their way. Trying to just damage those vehicles with slow tap fire. Blanca had to do it. I had to round out with another Gladiators prediction.
It's fine. I'm totally okay with it. Janiro, she's with you. She also thinks this is going to be the Glads win. Claris going for MUERTE. I wanted to, but
They've regrouped.
I wanted to, but I believe in GameLord here. You know what? They've been thrown a bone. They've been taking some weird hot drops, but now is the time. Now is GameLord's time.
This is also the team that managed to push across open fields and win a game on Erangel as well. They've shown they have precedent for winning games like this.
Exactly. I think MUERTE is going to be pushed out at some point, but again, you know, these fields are so unpredictable.
Yeah.
But MUERTE, though, this is a really nice position again to play out the next couple of minutes. It's going to afford them a lot of control, especially over towards NEXUS. You can already see that they're clearing them out easily.
Yeah, there's no shot that NEXUS make it any further here. Only one player now standing for them, Doran. Only a matter of time. Those smokes on top of him give the game away. GameLord are going to have their shots out that way too. So NEXUS fall on the northeast side, and GameLord getting a little bit closer to MUERTE now. Open fields, difficult to deal with. Nox going back and forth between Gladiators and Shockwave. Mecha needs to be careful. Aza already down, and Snowix lights up for a second. Sparking through, and Tixi is vulnerable there. Crawls back just about behind the buggy, but there needs to be some sort of response coming through from the rest of the Gladiators. The buggy will go up in smoke, and Tixi is ticking down. Shots over towards the top actually bring a second one out as Tixi crawls away. Can they get it? I don't think so. Just about hanging on, no. Will fall. Gladiators down to 2. That is unfortunate. And taken out by Shockwave.
MUERTE actually heads to the high ground. This is curious. They're fully sending on this one.
Okay.
And that building completely left open now. And imagine Narvalo spotted this happening. Next circle shift coming in. Heads over towards Shockwave Snowix. And MUERTE has made a clairvoyant play now.
Oh, okay, hang on a minute. There's a crash coming through. Matic needs to divert. The circle shoves back over to the western side, and he's got a tree. Game Lord probably won't want to swing this one out unless they just want to clear it through, but Happy J has other ideas. He breaks out wide and off angle for MUERTE, leaving Matic in trouble. I think maybe he thinks he's gone all the way to this compound, spots a vehicle, and Matic takes shots. This is bold. Needs to hit the deck. There is a ridgeline that he could stay alive on, but you imagine the hillside's going to be really treacherous. Drops the smoke.
MUERTE is trying to control so much space at the moment. It's nice. Looks like Happy J might go all the way in. Matic taking so many shots from all over. Happy J might just get a little bit further forward. Robs gets knocked again. Excuse me, with a really good position on this high ground, and Game Lord can do nothing about it.
Happy J just cyberbullying Matic right now, but he is still alive. Game Lord have the angle, but they will have to leave it. Matic is in the next circle, and he's dead. Narvalo takes him out. Game Lord on the northern side, playing up with 4. MUERTE regroup again.
Crazy.
How have they done this?
Alicio, though, the solo player, putting a right work over towards Game Lord. They are suffering because of this. Narvalo's down. Finally, Alicio goes to Robs there. But Game Lord lost so many members off the back of that one.
Going on in. Milky Way, Discrim, they are rampaging across here. Game Lord is still low, sure, but excuse me, are next up on the card. And Discrim wants the challenge with Black out wide. Doesn't really have the 1-2 trade as Happy J just careens straight into Shockwave. Goes down, flushed. Black wants to take Game Lord out first, though. Robs across the way. Last standing for Game Lord, indeed they are. Snowix getting flushed out by Milky Way. 3 players, and Shockwave are down.
MUERTE also now at 3. But Game Lord trying to get Narvalo back in action. But I think MUERTE is about to sweep this one out of control. Could have been a different story. If excuse me, it allowed one more player from Game Lord to get back up again. I think MUERTE is very happy for these two teams to conclude their feuds on this side.
MUERTE, 3 players strong. Numbers advantage. Really not a lot you can do to push through here. Look at how much of a chokehold they have. Even if it's a hard northwest shift, they're still in it. Discrim breaks out wide. Robs did see that. Doesn't have a lot of ammo, so maybe doesn't want to risk long-range sprays here. Wasting those magazines when he knows they'll be pivotal in close-range engagements. Yeah, Malloy already hit one onto Robs. Might have been worth it to expend that ammo while you had it. Narvalo takes the knee, and Robs is under pressure from more. Discrim breaks with a smoking buggy. The next zone. Going into phase 7, and we're down to 3 teams with it. Very close to being a chicken dinner here, but one of these Robs stays alive. Okay, takes down Malloy, sure, but the res is possible here on the ridgeline. And now, what can excuse me do?
I mean, there's one knock there, and they're breaking out wide. Looking to head over towards that loot crate. You know, excuse me, still can win this game. Black on high ground too, and MUERTE gave this up to take the fight towards Game Lord. Black could have had a real good chance at really weakening MUERTE there, but opts instead just hang back.
MUERTE were the smart prediction here. They had so much control, but we just doubted their ability to convert. Proving us wrong though. As long as they can hurdle these next 2 players, one will be fine. The next is Black with a lot of ammo here. Got a lot of power and a lot of bullets in that DP.
Yeah, but forced to the edge of the circle. Unlikely he's going to make a 1v3 happen, and MUERTE finally bring things back into action at the end of the day. It was the smart prediction. But we give it to Kalaris. He's a smart boy.
Black drops down low. Milky Way should spot this. No, shimmying through, just on the wrong side of the smoke there to catch it. Wants to break across and knows there's players in these smokes, but I don't think they're aware. We'll see the cross now, but he's in the vehicle. Allows Black to break out. There's a car, actually, right by that tree there. They definitely know he's here. And Discrim should just be able to shut it down. No, he doesn't have the ridgeline. Malloy?
They have no idea.
Did they not spot him? They definitely did now.
Finally.
MUERTE closing down finally. That was a bit too hairy. But did MUERTE get it? They are able to take a chicken dinner and maybe a little bit of redemption on the face.
Yeah, a clairvoyant play, I'll say, when they set up towards that ridgeline from that position on the eastern side. Circle shifts over towards the west, and suddenly they have control over a really good area. And I mean, it was a gamble, right? Because I think other teams made their rotations just after that circle hit in, but MUERTE had already sucked up so much room on that top side by that point, where teams didn't really value that position as much as they did until we got towards the end game. Game Lord and Excuse Me end up fighting once again. These two teams seem to have a real penchant for taking each other out all the time, and I think that Game Lord could have maybe had a chance versus MUERTE, but instead, Excuse Me, ruined the day once again. But still funny to watch Robs drop off the side of a mountain and then see a DBS not come up in the kill feed, being his DBS knock. The guy is so good with it, but you know, they do end up losing in the end, with MUERTE taking a much needed win.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. At this time, they started in 15th. They'll be able to get a whole host of points for that. My Gladiators prediction run, I think I'm going to have to curtail it a little bit because it just hasn't worked out for me. Top threes, only one of them today.
That's all you need, man. Just one a day. That keeps the prediction goblin away. That's all that matters.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go over to someone who did predict correctly with MUERTE. It's Kalaris and Janira on the desk.
Hello, it's me, Ginny, and Kalaris, who is the one actually who predicted correctly, not me. I know the way that, you know, John phrased it, he's like trying to give me credit where no credit is due. Kalaris, however, you know, you did it. You're a believer.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I guess I'll talk about it for a moment. That MUERTE here, I almost felt like they should have been getting a free win off the back of this, to be perfectly honest with you. They were controlling space very well. The thing about their transition, backfilling Gladiators the way they did, is very important. Even if the circle shifts down into the fields, kind of towards their compound, if that compound's out slightly, you still can't play the fields. The reason being, those hills just overlook those fields too well for then you trying to scramble around in the fields and everyone's just going to shoot you from the high ground. So that backfill on the southwest wrap that they did, super good, super important, corralled teams into one another. A very, very mature decision from MUERTE.
Absolutely. Geography. Keep that into consideration even when you are in game, because it does help you out. But also, you got to keep that energy going. You got to make sure that you got it all the way down to the end of the game. So thank you, Monster, for giving us that energy to keep going, because that also means that we have now concluded all 5 maps and we're still doing great. I'm still alive. All of the teams looked like they were still in tip-top form. But all in all, with the match ranking coming through as well, it's MUERTE, as we said, that finish on top with 9 elims and 10 points for their placements. Shockwave on second. I mean, Shockwave today as well, Kalaris, they've had a pretty good day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even across just 2 games alone, if we think that they got 30 points in the previous one, that's 44 points in 2 games out of the 4 that they played. I can't remember exactly how many points they got in the other ones, but it's enough to say, you know what, job well done.
Yeah.
So for Shockwave, I mean, we've seen them hit some of these highs as well. It just needs to be able to hit those highs consistently. And if they're able to iron that out, they could be top contenders.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the match report specifically, SnowX again. I mean, this guy there's no way he's not going to be the MVP of today, because the damage and the elims that this guy is getting through today for his team, Shockwave on his back, beautiful.
Yeah, and a previous multi-time MVP and Alicio showing up here, even though Avalanche really hasn't had much going their way. Still, someone like Alicio does have some power, does have some potency. We just need to see Avalanche iron things out, because right now, compared to the rest of the lobby, I feel like they're the most invisible team. We don't really talk too much about them because
absolutely,
we're not really spotting them, unless it's BNL doing something over on a Sanhok with a DBS.
Yeah, where they were a third last time on Sanhok, but we're also looking at daily winners. So we got Dagestan, Shockwave, Slime, MADBULLS, and MUERTE. MADBULLS and MUERTE continuing that streak in terms of getting at least 1 chicken dinner a day. But I am so happy to see Dagestan, Shockwave, and Slime up there as well. I mean, it's been so diverse today, same as yesterday's Playday, Kalaris. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like a treat, you know?
Yeah, very, very cool to see, especially with, again, as they say, I do feel like game 2 of the day, Shockwave's performance, that's the best single team performance we've seen in a game throughout the tournament so far, which was awesome to see. And then we follow it up with the next game where Sly all of a sudden's popping. It was, and actually it was super top heavy, right? Because it was Sly, it was Gladiators, and Major Pride in the top 3. So great day.
Great day, absolutely. I mean, it was a great for Snowix as well, so I'm going to say he's the MVP here. I'm trying to guess. Yeah, we got the unity on the desk. We have decided if we're both wrong, it's going to be so funny. But the MVP of today, the most valuable players. Yo, look at us. It's like we know what we're talking about. Yay.
Imagine that after having 2 banger matches.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the thing is that, again, I have to compliment them on the way that they played this Erangel game in particular. There was nothing afforded to them. There was no circle look. There was no kind of easy path to be able to get to here. They took the church. They were able to hold it down. It came down to the wire against Dagestan a little bit towards the end, but very, very good. And even holding off some members here in the last Erangel. So Shockwave and Erangel go hand in hand.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the overall as well, it's going to be another reflection of how these teams have played today. Starting off with Sly on top, 79 points, rocking it, followed by Gladiators, MADBULLS. I mean, you guys can read it yourselves, I know that, but I do like calling out their names because the top 3 teams, very well-deserved spots to be in.
It does speak, though, to how not great the Phase 2 was from MUERTE so far that they're not in the top 8 after getting themselves a win just now. So they've moved up to 10th place here. But again, I said it at the start of the day, I feel like MUERTE just needs that spark, that ready to go. So tomorrow, I'm expecting a more powerful MUERTE coming in, similar to what we saw from Phase 1 transitioning from day 1 to day 2.
Yeah, a little fuse has been lit for MUERTE, so seeing where that's going to go. I mean, a little fuse between us as well when it comes to the predictions because we're all trying to kind of out-predict each other. We then had John who went for like Gladiators 3 times in a row. That's an interesting one. I mean, that's a really good way of ending at the bottom of the leader table.
Well, you know, he's got a soft spot for this team, and then he's like, I've seen them win a few games. I guess I'll go with them. Every prediction. You know, it's just John things. He does what he tries, you know?
And you're on top, Kalaris. Kalaris on top. How does that feel? You beat blank.
You know, sometimes I would say, oh, yeah, what a great achievement I've accomplished here. But usually this is what happens, Janiro, in previous seasons. So I'm just going to... It was a blip before in Phase 1, a blip.
Yeah, just a warm-up.
Yeah.
You know, you always got to play those warm-up games, and then once you're actually like in the swing of things, you just consistently get the top points. Yeah, let's have a look at the socials as well. Because, again, very important to check those out to stay up to date with all the action that is taking place and is going to be taking place. There's some memes, you know, Max is trying really hard, so please do give him that follow. If he doesn't get the followers, he's out. But he's also doing a giveaway, though.
Yeah, and he likes his own posts consistently. He's one of those people, so, you know.
Okay, so help him out, everybody. Please. Please. Thank you. Don't forget as well, there is also going to be a survey which you can fill out. But guys, Turkey, make sure you check out that region because the competition there is fierce. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good day. Have a good evening. And we're going to see you then.